Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial. Before we get started, I want to let you know that you can find all the code example and resources we'll be using today in the GitHub repository linked in the video description below. This repository serves as a valuable companion to the tutorial, allowing you to follow along, experiment, and explore the code on your own time. Hi there, amazing developers, welcome back. Today, we've got something super special for you. We're diving into the world of Next.js 14 to create an advanced multi-part upload form that is not only fast and modern, but also comes packed with powerful features, including server action, a game changer that was experimental in Next.js 13, but is now super fast and stable in the version 14. Alongside that, we'll be using Redux, Tailwind, and Next.UI, some AWS services like DynamoDB for data storage, S3 for file uploads, and even we will discover SNS for some extra magic for sending automatic email notification. But wait, there is more. We also cover the ins and outs of integrating your own SVG icon. No need to be an artist, just copy paste from free website. I will show you that we can find some unlimited icon repository at your fingertips. Let's talk about the features of this form. It's just not another form. It's responsive. It can change all the elements depending on the screen width, and is also user-friendly for mobile phone, for tablet and desktop. Okay, let's see our form in action. We have some field here. We are going to put our first supercar. Let's put Ferrari. LaFerrari is our first car. Maximum speed, we just put something random. You can see there is a validation mechanism. So if we put some letters, we will get some error. Actually, we will see later how to customize our regex depending on your need. We can also put our website URL. There is also a condition that if I didn't finish the form above, we cannot proceed with the upload of our file. So for example, if I try to upload, I will get an error here. So first, we have to fill our form, and after we can upload the file. So we choose our car. We have a preview here, and we see the progress bar. The module will check the file MIME type. If it's a JPEG, a PNG, or other, we can customize this part. And also, it will check the size of our file. And the maximum allowed size is 2 MB. We can change all these parameters. We will see how to do it. So at this step, the form already created in our DynamoDB table a new item from the field that we already put in our form. We will see here a random car ID here, and all the other field is already here. The system already store our image, transfer our image to our S3 bucket, and it create a file, and under the folder images, and here we go. This is the file, and we get also a public URL to use for our website, for example. And if we go directly to our URL, we get directly the image. So go to the PDF file upload. Here we can increase our maximum allowed size, that is 40 MB. Actually, it's a multi-part upload, so it will divide in chunks. For now, I set 5 MB chunks, but we can also modify. Let's see how it upload a 10 MB file. We see the progress bar here is dividing in chunks and is uploading our PDF to the S3 bucket. So we are waiting. While waiting, we are going to see also here there is another component that can give us possibility to choose other field and other variable like AD display period, the number of days here, automatically change the cost. We can create a sort of interaction with the state of our component. So our PDF already completed. If we go to our S3 bucket, we will see that there is a new folder, a PDF file, and already save our file here. And the form automatically update also our item in the DynamoDB. So if we refresh the item, we will see that the form had a new attribute that is PDF URL. And here we go. We can also use this link for downloading our PDF file from the S3 bucket. So it's downloading. Let's see if everything is okay. And here we go. We have our PDF here. So we can go to the next step. Actually, we set the option that we need in this specific case, and we submit our form. And here we go. We refresh the page, and we also get the new element in this page. That it means that I query my DynamoDB and I get the new element that I created from this form. Let's see step by step how to create this mechanism. So to follow along, all you need is just a solid understanding of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. We will see how to use Next UI. We will see how to use the new Next.js 14, as I told you before. Anyway, so if you are ready to level up your web dev game, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's dive into creating something awesome with Next.js 14. So, first of all, be sure you have a Node installed, and we can check our Node version. Actually, it's 20.9 and it's okay. Please be careful to install the latest one. The 21 actually is not. There are some problems with the Next UI, and there are some conflict with the framer motion, and you can have some problems. So 20.9 is okay. We also check the npm version. Actually, is one of the latest. It actually is the latest. So here we go. We can start. So first of all, we have to install our Next UI. You can find some good documentation directly on the website. I like this library, this framework, because actually it's light. You don't have really many components, but they are fast and they are also modern and they are easy to customize, and there is a really good documentation. Anyway, you can use any library that you want. Also, of course, Material UI is a really good choice. So let's start to install the Next UI. Actually, for Next.js, there is directly some information here. I have installed already the new version Next.js 14, and to install the Next UI, you just run this command. In this case is npx create next app. We copy paste all this link that is from the GitHub, and here we go. I will get this repository. Okay, this will install Next.js and also install in the same time also the Next UI. So we give the name of our app. We can call O-form. Okay, let's also check the next version. You can see the process create a new folder that is O-form and create all the dependencies and all the structure here. Actually is a app router, is the latest one, and we have all the default pages here, also the folder components. We also have the package.json, and there are all the dependencies of Next UI, and actually are all components that we are going to see later, and our script to launch our application in dev or build. So actually we installed the Next.js that this year is the latest version. We'll see that there are many important improvements from the previous one, from the 13. Actually it's faster in the development mode. We will see also it improved the server action that actually are not experimental anymore, and we can discover the full potential of them. It also installed the Tailwind. You can see all the Tailwind configuration here that automatically also configure the Next UI inside the Tailwind configuration. So what we need now is to create our colors theme that we're going to use in our application. And here we go, module export. The content will leave everything like that. The theme, actually, we want to extend also for our customized colors. Actually, we want to customize some color, and I already have some of them here. I just put here is actually all the color that you saw on the form. We save it, and we will need also a font size extra small, and we're going to put directly here in font size. We will see later that we need for our application. Tailwind is okay. We also want to set the global CSS, okay, to be sure that everything is okay. When we install Tailwind, actually it also installs automatically in our global CSS that is here under styles, history, declaration here that import utilities from Tailwind, okay? First of all, we want to create our layout. We want to cancel this default and start to build our application. Before going to the next step, I want to install also some other stuff. I want to install also this dependency. Actually, we can find some React features here. And then for the last step, I also want to install Redux. I really love Redux because it gives you the freedom to manage the states across different parts of the application, and you can escape the tree paradigm, okay? You don't need to update the state considering the child and the parent, but with Redux, you go outside the structure, outside this kind of cage, and you can update some component, triggering an event from a really separate component, a different component that is not under the same tree. We install already this library, and I want to install Redux, also React Redux, have some extra features, and also the toolkit. We will see why we need this part. Redux.js toolkit. Here we go. We just wait this last library, and here we go. We are ready to go to the next step. Okay, first of all, let's start from the layout, okay? So what we need now is to be sure we have all the dependencies here, because in the layout we are going to use some dependency, okay? Of course, we import all the styles and globals. The metadata, actually, we don't need all this part. We don't need them. We don't need site configuration. After the metadata, I want to import the providers, okay? These providers wrap our application and transfer the feature from Next.UI. We have the providers here in this page, and the providers is a part of Next.UI, okay? That include all the mechanism to wrap our application with all the Next.UI features. So it's a client component. We import React, Next.UI provider. It will also use router to change the router, the provider, and everything that we need. Actually, it's a standard file that will leave everything like that. Is going to implement all the Next.UI feature. So let's go back to our layout files. We import our providers. We are going to include also the Redux provider to apply all the Redux mechanism. Client export.jx. We don't have this file yet. We're going to create now. Actually, we create this file because we want to apply the use clients, okay, on this file. If not, we'll get some error because Next.js will consider this Redux component like a server component, but actually have to be client component. So we create a folder here that is a Redux. Okay, we create the file under Redux that is Redux use client export.js, okay, and inside this file we are going to create a component to wrap our application. The component is a use client, and he import our provider from the Redux library, from the React Redux. Okay, we also import the store to store all our states for our application from .store use store to manage our store. That actually is from this Redux. Actually, we can put here next to this one. Okay, so we have all the package, and we create an export function that is a Redux provider, the children, that is our application, and we're going to wrap our app with the provider. It's going to be like this, and we also pass as a prop the store, all our states, and the children inside. Here we go. Okay, so we have our wrap component, and then we export our use. So we go back to our layout that we imported the Redux provider, and I will show you now how to apply to this layout. Let's finish to import other stuff. I want to use this font, Poppins, that is from actually Next.js already have the Google font that we can find here, Next font Google, and we can apply to the whole application, giving to the parent component, but we can also change and import some other fonts in our part of our application and apply different font. But we're going to apply Poppins for the whole application here, and after import, we create the variable that is Poppins, activate the instance of Poppins here, is going to be weight. The weight of this font is 14. Actually, you have some default value for each font, and the subset is going to be Latin. And here we go. So we have Poppins here. Okay, so for the metadata, actually we don't need all this stuff. We just put our title that we call supercar, because actually the form is a supercar theme, and the template is going to be also supercar. Apply the same, and the description is going to be just something. This is a supercar form. Theme color we just remove because we are going to use Tailwind, and we just remove it. The icon we just put this one, and we are going to upload directly here in the public, and we have the favicon dot icon. Actually is the style from Next.js. We're going to import our favicon, and here we go. So we leave the metadata like that. We leave the TypeScript, the type here, that's actually the children, is a React node. And here we are going to create the element, and then we just leave everything as a default. The head here, and the body is the part that we need us to modify. So actually in the body, we don't put anything this. We just remove everything. We leave the body like that. And here we are going to wrap our application first with a Redux provider. Okay, so be sure to follow this order. If not, you can have some little problem. And after, also the provider from Next UI. Here we go. And we have this part. So inside here, we are going to put our main element and our application. So this is the main, and we call it with the class name. We can apply our Poppins. Let's add the backtick here, and let's it is dynamic string that actually is Poppins dot last name. This is the way to apply the font to our application, and I start to use Tailwind. I prefer Tailwind and Bootstraps in some case, depending on the project, but Tailwind has the really a good versatility and give you the freedom to apply some class really fast and have everything in your code. You don't need to switch between your code, your React code, and the CSS file. You don't need to use some React object to apply the CSS. Actually, they are really simple, and also verbose class that help you to customize your application and give you the freedom, the speed to put a really good and modern style and make a responsive application. Okay, here we are going to put the first Tailwind class that actually we want the layout to take the whole screen depending on the device, and also for the width and also for the height is going to be fixed. Okay, so we just specify this, and here we go. We have our main, and inside we are going to create a div element class name that is the same. We are going to put, this is actually the parent of our application is going to take also the full height, and also is going to be actually a flex and it's going to be overflow auto. In this way, you can also scroll when need. So inside we put our application that is children. So the layout actually is ready. We have to create our page. Let's delete all this route we don't need. We create our own route, docs or pricing. We create our route that is head car. We call it head car, and inside it, we're going to create, first of all, a page. Let's start with a hello world page and see. We run our development mode, we localhost, let's see if the page works. We are going to, let's create just a simple page like export. Oh, the page actually is a server component. We don't need to specify that is a use client. Export default, async function, page, no word, okay? Okay, let's try. I put async because later we will use some query with the server action, and I want to use async and await, and it need to be really simple way to manage promises. PM run that. Let's see our hello page. We have a little problem. Of course, we didn't create the store in Redux. Okay, let's go back to Redux. And we create the client component to wrap our application, but we also to, first of all, create a store here. Okay, so Redux, we create store.js. Okay, and the store is something standard that you can find in the Redux documentation that actually is import the configure store from Redux toolkit. Okay, so we import this component, and also we import the manage form reducer that we are going to create. Actually, we create a slice for our Redux that is we call manage form, the reducer where we are going to implement and create all the function to manage the states that I will show you later. Let's import, but later we will create the file, and is Redux fit, okay, and it's called manage form slice.js. We are going to create this file just later, a few minutes, and we export our configure store here, and the reducer in this case is only one, and this one. For our application, we just create a reducer, okay? A reducer is just a group of states and functions to apply in some part of our application. So our application is really simple. It's just a form, but for complex application, we can create more than one reducer. So we call it manage form. Go. It's an object here. Here we go. We create our reducer here. Now we need to create the logics inside the reducer. Usually I create folder that is Redux features. So we call it Redux fit. And I create a file inside that is our manage form slice. So we are going to manage some state of our form. Let's create just a simple state, and later we are going to integrate all the state that we need for our form. First of all, we import our create slice.js toolkit. Okay, and from this we're going to export our manage form slice. Manage from slice. Actually, we're going to was like this. Store manage from slice upload stages. That is false as initial state. Okay, After this, we are going to declare the reducers. Actually, there are some functions that we can call from any component with the dispatch method. We will see later we change the states of our store, and automatically will trigger all the components that use the useStore method that include that component. Okay, the reducer are this one. Here we go, and I want to create just don't have here. Okay, my first function is update. We call update image upload status. Okay, this is my first function. That as argument we have the state, we have the action, okay, and we have our state dot. We get the value of the state, we get the reference to the state, and we change what we trigger from the component that actually is action payload. Okay, this is the value. This is the value that we get from the dispatch method from the component. Okay, so we set our first function and we export. We export our functions. In this case, we just add one that is equal to manage form slice dot actions. Okay, this way we can export, and it is an export default manage form slice dot reducer. Okay, so we set up our Redux store. We just have one variable now with just one reducer, one function, and that will change our state from false to true, and there is just a toggle, and we will see how to apply directly from the component. So now we can save, just save this one. There is a problem here. It's actually the Redux.js toolkit. Here we go. Let's update. Here we go. We have our hello world page, okay, and now we're going to build our front and see how it works. We will see how to apply step by step all the Tailwind classes. We will see all the Redux logics and the server actions. That is a really powerful feature from Next 14. It's going to be really interesting. Before going to the next step, I just want to spend some words about Redux. I use Redux for almost every project that I make because it gives me a lot of freedom. Actually, it's a state management library that is commonly used with React to manage the state of an application in a predictable way. Actually, it provides a centralized store to hold the entire state of application and set rules to determine how the states can be modified. So the core concept of Redux actually is the store that, as we see here, is a single a single JavaScript object that represents the entire states of our application. The actions are JavaScript objects that describe an intention to change the state, and they must have a type property indicating the type of action being performed. And the reducer that are pure functions that specify how the application state changes in response to an action. So a reducer takes the current state and an action as arguments and return a new state. It shouldn't modify the existing state, but instead create a new state object. We will see how to use dispatch. That actually is a method that triggers state change, that you dispatch an action to the Redux store. The store then passes the action to the reducer, with that which calculates the new state. We also use Tailwind. As I told you before, Tailwind is really easy to apply. The common class is a utility-first CSS framework that provides a set of pre-designed low level because are really simple. They are verbose. They are really easy to understand from the names. Use directly your HTML to markup to build a responsive and modern user interface. It is different from traditional CSS frameworks like Bootstrap or Foundation, which often come with predefined components and style. Tailwind focuses on providing small single-purpose utility classes that you can combine to create custom designs. We have a lot of utility classes, but we can also create new classes and interact and customize some classes. There are a lot of plugins, so that can significantly reduce the size of your CSS file. Okay, so after this little introduction about Redux and Tailwind, let's go to the next steps. And let's build our form. The layout is complete. We have to customize our page. Usually when I work with Next.js, I always leave the page as a server component, and I include some client component as need, depending on what I want to integrate. Anyway, if a component interacts with the client, it means that use some standard React method like useState, useRep, useRoute, or other client method. We cannot ask to Next.js to render as a server component. We have to specify useClient and import in the server component as a useClient component. We divide our application in two parts. The part on the left, as you saw in the introduction, is just the form itself, and the part on the right is just like a library, like a page that show all the input that we send from the form. Okay, we create some car, we input all the information in the form of the car, and we will see the car on the right page. So let's start with the form, and later we have to create also the database in Dynamo, the bucket in S3. So we will do it step by step. So first of all, we create a form that we call add car form. We are going to create this component later. We just set up here. Okay, so in the page, okay, we return actually our component here. First of all, we're going to specify class name that is h full and w full. Okay, to get the wall space of our container. There is another subcomponent here. How I want to divide these two elements depending on the screen. So when the screen is until LG, I want flex. I also put this scroll bar hidden class that we are going to create now in our style. It's just copy paste all the style so we can save time, and I will explain you how it works. So we have just a keyframe that apply the opacity from 0 to 1 to some component, okay, that use the fade in, okay, just to give some animation. We have a glass container here that we will see later actually is the component of the car that we create. The background color with all this transition is just nothing special, it's just a normal CSS. There is also a hover effect when I get over the component. We have also some keyframe for pulse animation, the scroll bar hidden, some media for the scroll bar hidden, and the input BG with the background color. I also put the scroll bar hidden, this class that actually give the auto overflow. And we also with the media, if the screen that is smaller than 1000 pixels, will apply the scroll bar hidden. For the smaller screen, we are going to hide the scroll bar. Let's see here. We go back to our page. We are going to create these two components. So this will include the form, and this one will include, we call car space, that is the page next to the form. And we call it, we apply some class name. Also here, it's going to be h full, w full, and the bg cover. Okay. We use our predefined style that we create in the Tailwind config here at the beginning. The cover, the primary, secondary, background, confirm, and confirm light are our predefined color that we are going to apply. Okay. We want to cover the background, okay. Also in this part, if it's under the LG, we want to grow the flex, okay. And also here the scroll bar hidden. We're going to, I put a background image this here. We're going to copy inside our public folder the background here. See? I just copy paste a series of a class from Tailwind, and I'm going to explain you why. So first of all, for the form we want h full, w full, overflow automatic on Y, b6, So we are going to see LG. We also set the width for some screen, the background, the scroll bar hidden. We're going to see each one later. So now we are going to import the add car form here. Okay. We don't have the car form yet because we have to create it inside the component as we saw before. This is a use line component here. The component is add car form. We're going to return a form element. Okay, this is a form element with some class name. Also in this case, it's going to be the full. We put the default test gray 500, and here we go. Later we will put also information. So the first thing we want to put is the image. Okay, let's just something to see. Everything is okay. So we can also have to export the form. See, it's okay. So here we have our form. As you can see here, we already divide two parts. This is the form part and this is the car space here. Okay, and if we change the dimension, we will see some interaction. Okay, with the class that I specified before. I saw to my application to ask with Tailwind. I just said that for the screen that are smaller than LG than large, this form take the whole page and automatically the car space go down. It works because I put this class here. So I say, okay, when the screen is smaller than LG, what happened? Automatically the form take the full, okay? But when it's bigger than our LG, this one, in this case, if it's bigger than LG, will be a flex. Okay, let's build our form. So we define the form structure. We're going to create all the input field. Okay, before doing that, I would like to create a validation system that is based on regex. And I want to create some function that make it easy to validate or to change the logics depending on the input field. I create a function that actually is a regex container that we are going to apply to every single input. First of all, we are going to import React because we're going to use a use memo and other method. Import also use state that we'll use to manage all the state of the form, and also, as I said, use memo. Okay, from React. I will also need some Next.UI component, and I want to do the input, the select, and select item. For more information about this component, you can go directly to the Next.UI website. I will show you where you can find them. So you can find here in the section, in the components, you can find input here. Actually, they are beautiful input, really clean, and with this nice animation that check the placeholder, and you can find a lot of different API. You can customize them, change the color, and I really like this library. It's nothing like crazy fancy, or it doesn't have many components. You can find more free libraries online, but this one I like because it's simple, it's clean, and it's also modern, and it's a high customizable. Let's go back to our project. So we import this element from Next.UI or here we go. So we have this component. I want to create an object that is the initial inputs. There are all the initial values. We don't use Redux in this point. We will use later on a special component on the bottom of the form, and I will show you how to use Redux just to control the form, as I said, just in a different way than the tree structure. Let's create this object that is initial input. Here we go. And we use memo actually is useful to make the application faster. We don't want to initialize the function every time I render the component. Okay, if we define a normal function, the function will be defined every time I render the component. With use memo, we initialize the function only the first time when we mount the component, and we trigger that function only when we need. Okay, so it's a good optimization method. And we are going to define our object inside here. Actually, use memo is the function. We can also put some parameters, but in this case we don't need. And we return all our things inside. Actually, I want to define the first field, that is car. Actually, it's not a field. It's just an ID. It's just a key that we are going to use later in the car space in the page next to the form. And I want to generate, every time I create a new car, a random string. So we are going to create a function that generates just a random string of 15 chars in this case, and we create the random function here. This is generate random string. We use the same, we generate random string inside, yes, from crypto. We go. We return our string here with crypto. We're going to use the method in crypto that is called random byte here, and we are going to transform the number to hex. We are going to slice the string this way, 0, and depending on the length. Okay. Here we go. So we have our random string generator. The first field, that is the model of the car. Okay, the initial input is just an empty string. We're going to add later some other fields, but for now, we start with the first input with the model one. Okay, with the use memo, we don't want to make it dependent to any external variables. And so this is the initial input, and okay. We are going to create this object just when we mount, the first time we mount the component, okay? And after that, we want to create a state for this input. So the state, we call it input. We call set input. Let's see. Set input, and we state it. So for default, for the initial values, we are going to put directly the object initial. Here we go. So we are going to use this state. We are going to update these states depending on the input. Let's talk about the validation. Okay, so now we have our inputs that we are going to include in our form field. And we also want some regex validation. For example, if I input an email, I want to be sure that it's a real email. If it's a website, is a URL, we want to be sure that there is like https/www. So we are going to create a validation system that we call const validations. We use memo here the same because we want to trigger this function only when we need and not every time we render the page. So it's the same, use memo. We are going to define the function here. We don't need the parameters because actually this function is just a regex selector, and we can create an object with all the keys and the relative regex depending on the input. So in this way, we can select multiple regex. We don't need to create a function for each regex. We just create one and we give keys to select. So the first is going to be model. Okay, later we will add the same. So it's going to be parallel to the initial input. Okay, so the model, the regex function, input a value, and return the regex text. So the model, we just want to be sure that there is at least 3. For example, we create a regex that we want at least 3 chars, not included the space. Okay, if I input only space, it's going to give me an error. But if it's more than 3 chars that is not space, we consider valid. Anyway, this depends on your needs. Of course, it's just an example. I'm going to put the regex to the beginning of the word, of the string. We want this to be for every chars. This not space. So at least 3 chars insensitive, and we're going to test that value. This function will return true if the reg is matched. Okay? Okay, let's go to the next step. We create the first validations, and we want to create also a function that we are going to use with the validation that is invalid. Actually, we want to know when is invalid. Okay? And we don't put directly validation in the for, but we are going to use this new function that we call is invalid, that is going to use the validation logics. Okay, here is our function. We are going to return actually true or false depending on the regex validation and the key selection of the validation object. Okay, so actually is invalid if the regex here doesn't match with the input. Okay, we have to return true for is invalid. Okay, let's return a function that get the name. We call name is the selection of our validations, that is called validation name. Okay, when we call this function, okay, we are going to select one of these key, one of these regex. So this point we are going to, so of course we have to put the regex name. When we call this function is valid, is invalid, is going to have this parameter. We give a condition if, okay, input name, okay, the same key, is empty, because we don't want to give back the error when we didn't put anything yet in the field. If it's an empty string, we are going to return false. That it means that it's not invalid, okay, it's valid actually. If it doesn't match this condition, we are going to return the opposite of the validation. Let's go to validation name. Here we go. What happened here? If the string is empty, we're going to return first. If not, we're going to return the opposite of validation, or the opposite of validation. It means that one of these conditions has to be true, this or this. This is true if we don't have a validation. Okay, if we put inside this parameter a key that is not included in the validation object, is going to return true and is invalid anyway. This is a more control over selection. Or the validation, we invoke this function. Okay, actually we are invoking one of the functions selected from this object selector here, and we put inside the value. Okay, if our input match the regex, is going to give back false. Okay, the opposite of validation, regex return, is going to be, if it's true, is going to be false, and is going to be valid. Okay. Our validation system is complete. We are going to, we just want to the function only, just want to run the function only if one of these two variable, dependent variable change. More optimized, and here we go. So we have our logic here. So let's use this function and let's create our first input. Before going to the front end, we need another function. Okay, and this function will handle the input change. Okay, we call this function handle input change. We put two parameters, that is name, because we want this function to be multi-label and dynamic depending on the field. We don't want to repeat the function for each input. First, the input name is going to be the same of this one. We are going to focus just on the first, that is mod, and the second parameters is value. Okay, here we go. So we have we want to set the states of the input for every single change. Okay, so every time we put an input, it will render the field, and we already declare here the set inputs we are going to use here for the input change. So the set input takes it takes actually a function inside that update depending on the input. We're not going to give a direct value, but we are going to create a function that return an updated object, okay? Because we are not going to set one single value, but we are going to set the whole object depending on the name, depending on the key, okay? We declare a function that take as a parameters the previous inputs, okay? We call it prev inputs. We call prev inputs and return back actually this function inside the use state where we are going to take the previous state input and we change depending on the new input value. We spray the object with the prev input, override the label that is changing now, okay? That is name and value. Here we go. We set the input and we have also this function to handle input change. So now we are ready to work on the front end. Let's create the first field. We are going to wrap the input in some div just to make the height fixed to 20. The class name is, we're going to put Tailwind H20, and inside here we're going to put the input, okay? The input from Next.UI that we already import. Actually, the input takes many parameters in Next.UI and it's really dynamic. We are going to use some of them just for what we require for this form. If you want to get deeper and get more information, you can, of course, check the documentation on the Next.UI official page. We are going to put our value, that is the value of the form, and is the inputs.model, okay? We're going to take the initial inputs here. Is a text type. It's going to be text. We are going to put a label, okay, on the form that we call supercar model name. We also give the name of the model, and this name is going to be exactly the label, the key of our function, and we call exactly the same, that is model. Next.UI provide you some different styles that they are already preset, and we're going to, they call variant. In this case, we like the variant bordered. We will see how it is on the client side, and we call bordered. Here we go, that our isInvalid function take action, okay? Actually, isInvalid is also a prop of our input, and we call the same. And we put inside here the same function that we create before, okay? And if you remember, the function take as a parameter the name of the key, okay? That is, in our case, is going to be model, okay? We want to change the color dynamically of our input field depending on the regex-based validation, okay? So the color is not static, it's going to be dynamic. We're going to use a ternary operator, so if it's invalid, it's going to be danger. If not, it's going to be success, so it's going to be green. And the error message will take exactly the same logic of the color, okay? So we're going to put if is invalid, okay? And we can give directly the end operator. If it's both true, the string is always true, so we're going to check only this. Please enter a valid model name, okay, that will show in our form. Okay, so here we have onValueChange. Is a property that trigger a function every time we change the input. So every time we change the input, we want to trigger this function with a new value of the input. And if you remember, the handle input change actually take two parameters. Where is it? Is here name and value. So the name is going to be our model, and the value is the value of the new input. And here we go. We just actually the input from Next.UI has some default styling, included the background, but in our form we want to be sure that the background of the input is white. Okay, just a little information. The Next.UI use the slot technique to apply some classes depending on the specific part of our element, okay? So you can read on the documentation for every single slot, and which is the part of the component that is referred to. And in this case, we are going to apply the class name, the white background, to the input wrapper. The input wrapper is exactly the background of the input part. It's going to be the input wrapper, and our Tailwind class is going to be bgy. Here we go. We also apply this style, and we're going to close our input. Let's check if it works. Supercar model name. Supercar model name is the label, so it works. If I click, you can see the animation from Next.UI that is going to go to the upper side. We input the car name. Actually, the regex doesn't work. Let's see why. Okay, so I make a mistake here. This is not the end of the string. The end of the string has to be $. Actually, the regex was not correct. Let's try if it works. At least 3 chars, that is not empty space. And here we go. If I put 3 chars, it works. Okay, but if I only put empty space, it doesn't work. Our first input is done. Let's go to the next step. We are going to create more inputs, and I'm just going to copy paste to don't make you wait that I digit every single input. So the second input, we can call it max speed of the cars. We're going to copy paste here from my previous code, and we're going to quickly check every single details, but actually are exactly the same logic, then nothing changed. The max speed, text, maximum speed, miles per hour, max speed is bordered, everything is the same, doesn't change anything, but the label is going to be max speed. So we need to create also the max speed regex validation here, and I just copy paste the previous one, but in this case, we want to be sure that this is only number, okay? In regex, there are different ways to check if it's only number. I'm going to use this one that is /d plus $. This is a commonly regex pattern that is you can use to check if it's only number. It means that assert that is the start of the string, okay? And this represents a digit character and is equivalent to the class 0 to 9, okay? Matching any digit to 0 from 0 to 9. This plus is a quantifier that match 1 or more occurrences, and this is the end of the string. We just want to be a number just in a single string, okay? We add here. We also need to add in other part that is actually here on the input field, and also max speed is going to be empty at the beginning. So let's add also a text here, just p last name. We want to apply a big text. It's going to be 3XL, okay? And the font is going to be semi-bold, all Tailwind classes. And the margin bottom, we put 5, okay? And the text is going to be add a supercar. Here we go. We have our text here. We also want to add an image. I suggest you to use always the image from Next.js because under the hood, this component has many optimization techniques that they are going to be applied. So use the image one here. And in this case, we are going to put here at the top before the text. It's going to be here. And the source of the image is where we can create our image here. It's going to be in our path images, car logo. We're going to save now the folder. And Next.js, the image asks to field that is width and height. For default, we put 0, 0, okay? We put the 0, 0. You can use different approach. In this case, we put it 0, 0, and I'm going to apply some style. But if you already know what is the image dimension, you can put directly here. But in this case, I want to apply directly the style. Sizes we put as a default 100 view width is going to take always the full resolution. And the style that we are going to apply is this one. Width, that actually is 250 pixels. We want to be like that. We can also use, for example, a fixed width and a automatic height. Okay, depending on the container. We can also, for example, if we upload an image that has a different ratio between width and height, if we put the auto, will be automatic. If not, will deform and will change the image size. In this case, we just want that the width is always a constant of 250 pixels, and if we upload some image that has a different ratio, we want the height to be automatic. In this case, we know the height. Okay, we can also put auto, but we will use the automatic image later in the car space, and I will show you how. In this case, we know the image, and we are not going to change the image in the future, so we put directly this. We also put a margin button here that is 20 pixels to separate from the text, and margin is going to be auto to make it auto-centered. Here we go. We have put everything, and we are going to close the image. Okay, I save the image. Let me grab from the other folder. Here, public. We're going to create a new folder that is image. Image is here. Copy the car logo. We paste this image. Here we go. It's a PNG. We save the form. Let's see. And refresh our page. Here we go. We have our car logo here. Let's create the next input. The next one is going to be the URL. So I will just copy paste the other input to make it faster. We're going to call it brand URL. This is also a text type. We are going to put a label that is a brand website URL from the car's brand, and the name is going to be brand URL. The var is also bordered, is invalid. We call the key from the function. It's going to be the same brand URL, exactly like the name, brand URL. Everything is the same here. We change it. Please enter a valid. We're going to create the regex to match a URL string, and here is the same. We just change the name, brand URL, and here we go. We don't change anything else. We are going to update our validation function selector that is the same. Here we go. And we are going to create a regex to check the URL. In this case, I want to make it simpler. I don't want to spend too long for the regex. Anyway, you can study in a different tutorial. So the regex here, I just want to check if it contains www. And here we go. Just make it simpler. Okay. So we also add the brand URL here, the other function that is the initial inputs. Also here we put as an empty string as the initial value. If we put a string that doesn't contain www, it will return error, but if we put .ferrari.com, it will accept our inputs. Of course, you can change and make it more precise and more strict depending on your rules. Let's go to the next input. So we are going to use a different kind of component that is called select, and you can find also in XUI documentation. Of course, it's nothing crazy, it's just a selection input. Okay, so inside this select menu, we want to create a map iterator in React to create multiple elements inside, and the array that we are going to map we call car manufacturer list. And before going to the next step, we're going to define this car manu list here. I will just copy paste a list of car manufacturers, and we can put here point of our component, that is this one. We have some brand. Wow, that's really nice cars, man. Just For me, just one is enough. We don't need all. Maybe one day, if I have 1 million subscribers, I can buy one of them. Yeah, in the next life, maybe, yeah. So let's go back to our iterators here. Return a select item component inside that is going to create our selection for the menu. This is the car manufacturer, we call car manu, and the component inside is select item. Okay, is the select item. And important, always remember, when you use the map iterator in React that create components, each component must have a different key name. If not, you will generate really crazy conflict in React, and they are difficult to spot in a second step. So let's call it key. This is the key of the component, and we can use directly the car manu because every single name is different, so it's going to be a unique key. And the value, the same, it's going to be car manu. Okay? So we wrap here, we get the same. So the child is going to be exactly the name of the manufacturer here. But we have to finish to put the correct prop inside the select first, okay? Before going to the next step. Let's choose the same variant as before, the same style of the text input that is bordered, okay? And the label, we are going to put select a car manufacturer. Here we go. The color is always success in this case, because we don't have a regex validation. And we put here on change function that trigger when we trigger our function when we change the selection. Okay, in this case is a little bit different from the text input. We have an event, so we want to trigger the same function as we created before, handle input change, and this has two parameters, as you remember. The first is the name, in this case it's car manu, and the value that you are going to pass to the function is from the even.target.value. This is a standard in React. And the last property is the class name. We want to apply the same as before. We just grab, copy, paste here, and here we go. Okay, we have to update also the function above, the function of the top, and okay, the initial input from the selection field, from the selection component, is going to be empty, the same. Okay, so we don't want any pre-selected car manufacturers, but we don't have the regex, so we don't put in the regex here because it doesn't. Okay, let's create a refresh. We have a little problem with the style. What happened here? Class name input wrapper. Maybe is not the input wrapper. Sorry, yeah, because if you read the Next.UI documentation, the input wrapper is from the text one. From the selection, we have another slot. Remember, Next.UI called slot is the part of the component where we want to apply the class, and it's called trigger. Okay, so in this case, we apply the white background to the trigger. We make a mistake here with the div, have to wrap the previous one, and here we go. Let me set the code here to make correct. Here we go, put the div here, fix this one. Here we go, we have our selection here, all the car in our menu. I really like this style from Next.UI. It's clean, it's modern, and have a little bit animation. Yeah, this is a good library. So let's go to the next step. Let's create the next field. Okay, so let's take a look to our form with the car space. It's responsive. We already saw before that automatically when we reach the screen smaller than large, so that the form will take the full width and the car space is going on the bottom. We create a checkbox input. We need a div that actually applies some class name to style correctly our checkbox. We want to be a flex, and we want to be vertical line, okay, the element between the element inside the checkbox that actually is just the checkbox itself and the text. And we are going to apply like this. So first we apply the text, we create the text that is, in this case, we also apply a class name that is going to be just a margin on the right that is 3 that separate the text from the checkbox, okay? Is a convertible char or not? We just want to know this. So we call input and we are going to put some props that the type is a checkbox. Type is checkbox. Here we go. With the name of this new field is a conv char. If it's a convertible char, the status of the input is checked and it depends on our input object that is conv char that we are going to add later. And on change input is going to update the state. That actually is the same function that we created before with the element target. So we have the E and the input changes. The say is going to be conv char here, and this E target dot check it. Okay, this is not valid, but it's check it. And the class name that we apply to this with this component is actually cursor pointer, be clickable, and H5 and W5. Okay, so let's close our element here and let's see what happened on the front end. Save and automatically refresh. We have our checked box, and is going to, there is a mistake here, cursor pointer. Let's see how it changes. Okay, and we forgot to update our input object here. We need to apply here that is conv char. Default is false, and we are not going to put, of course, in regex because we don't need a regex here. So we have all the fields that we need for our form. So now is the interesting part. We're going to create an upload component that we can drag and drop our files inside, create a validation system that checks if the file match a special MIME that is, for example, JPEG or PNG, and it doesn't exceed the maximum size. So let's create this upload component. First of all, I want to add a text here that give information to the client what is about. Text LG, big font, use semi-bold, and empty 6 MP. So you can see how powerful is the Tailwind, okay? How powerful, and how it just in few seconds you can see directly from the main component all the styling and all the logics that you apply, and also all the responsive logic that you apply to the component. Okay, let's create our upload component. First of all, I want to create in a different file, and then we are going to import here to make it cleaner and less complicated. We create a file that has 2 components, okay, that is going to be the image upload and the PDF upload, okay? We create in a single file, and we export in 2 different elements what we are going to call drop image and drop PDF. And okay, the file that we create here, we call it drop zone, and is going to be a SX JavaScript component. We don't need actually TypeScript in this part. Okay, let's tell to Next.js that is a use client. Okay, first of all, okay, we want to manage the state. Okay, we want to use some React method like use memo and other stuff. We are going to import a new library that is called React Drop Zone, and it's a really interesting library. You can find the official documentation on the web. I will show you where you can find. It's called Drop Zone from React Drop Zone. I don't think we installed yet. Let's check in our JSON, in our package JSON. We don't have yet our drop zone. We're going to install now. Okay. let's see let's see the website. Use drop zone. It's just all the functional part of the functional elements of this component. They are all well explained here, and you can find a lot of documentation. There are many different methods to customize the drop zone. There are also some ref to use. You can explain how to style the drop zone, custom validation, and there is also the previews. Previews we will see in our form when we upload an image. We just want to see the preview of the image. A lot of interesting functions. We want to install first. So to install is just easy. We just npm install. Install here. Actually, we don't need save because the new version is automatic, but we just leave like that. Okay, so our drop zone is installed. Run again our development mode. Okay, so next step, we have to create from scratch of the logic for the multi-part upload. Okay, we want this form to be like every real case form. Okay, it means that we want to upload also big file, like what if I like a 20 gigabyte file, I want the form manage it, okay? And actually the multi-part divide the files in some chunks and upload them. We will see with the S3 storage in AWS how to manage this multi-part upload and make it smoothly and effective. Before going to the next step, in this drop zone file, we need to create the multi-part upload logics and match them with the S3 API in AWS. This is a not really easy part. It's going to grow a little bit in complexity, but I really like the from scratch approach because give you the whole understanding of the mechanism under the hood. Let's see how to integrate the multi-part chunks splitting and integration with the S3 API in AWS. Okay, first of all, let's create a new file. Okay, now this is the part where also the server actions get involved in our form. So what is a server action? Actually, as the name suggests, is a function that runs on the server, okay? And is an easy way to run some server function without any API call from the client. It's a new feature in Next.js, and in Next.js 14, they make it more stable and is not experimental anymore. And you can find all the information of server action, of course, in the Next.js official documentation, and here they explain how to use them, okay? We will see just one way to use them, just one example in our form, but there are many different ways to use and to take the full potential of them. Let's create our first server action here. We create a folder that will include all our server action. Is at the top of our project. We call server actions folder. Inside this folder, we are going to create two different files that actually they are the files that we will use to connect to DynamoDB in AWS and to connect and to upload with to the S3 storage. So we call the first one we call DynamoDB, and the second one is going to be upload S3. We will see the DynamoDB later. For now, we just create the S3 multi-part upload. We need to create a bucket in our AWS account. So let's start with this part. When you create the bucket, you can go directly to your AWS. You create a new bucket in the region that you want. And when you create, you have to confirm that it's going to be public. Okay, in this case, in our case, we use this bucket to get some image URL from our application. Is to be public in this case, and also for the PDF URL. So we create public, and you need also to add this authorization JSON. If not, you can make it public. And the statement and everything here is going to be like that. Anyway, you can find a lot of documentation about that, but it's just create a bucket, make it public, and the creation time, I will show you how, and you have all the information. You have to put this JSON here to make it public. The bucket doesn't have a real folder actually. The system show you that you can create folder and subfolder, but actually they are just URL path. They are just a single path to the file directly. We are going to create two folders, images and PDF, but actually they are virtual folder. This form actually is an EC2 server, and with the EC2 server I already give the authorization to access to a S3D, to the DynamoDB. Later we will see it, but also to access to the S3. My recommendation, never ever store the access keys directly in the code. You have two methods. If you use a server in AWS, you give directly the authorization to the role of the EC2. Okay, you give directly in AWS, so you don't need to store anything here in the code. But if you don't use the EC2, you have a different server, you can create an own environment file here and put the keys directly here. Okay, but never put in the plain text in the code. So let's create our upload S3 logic. Okay, we tell to Next.js that there is a server component. Okay, the server action are use server by definition. We are going to install the AWS libraries that is at AWS SDK client S3. Okay, we're going to use the S3 SDK. Here we go. This is a V3 version, is the last version, and is much easier, much faster than the previous one. You can find all the documentation about this library in the AWS website. We are waiting. Okay, let's install also DynamoDB for later. DynamoDB we will use later. And another package that is really helpful is util, and we install also now. That is npm install at AWS SDK util DynamoDB here. Let's go back to our upload S3. So what we do now is to import our S3 client. We import also this class that is create multipart upload command. It will help us to upload in a multipart technique to our S3. And another class is upload part command. I will show you how to use them. And the last part is complete multipart upload command, okay, from our library that we just installed, is AWS SDK client S3. This is the classes that we need to create a multipart upload system. We need to initialize a new class that is S3 client. We call S3 client this, and we create a new instance of this class that is S3 class, and we have to specify as parameters where is the bucket we are going to upload our files. Okay, the region that where we want to save our S3 bucket. Actually, S3 is a global service in AWS, and it doesn't change depending on the region. You have a global section, but you have to specify in which part of the world you want to save image. Our bucket is in the Dublin region, that actually is U West 1. Okay, here we go. Let's start with the first one. This is three different parts of the multipart upload process. First, I create a multipart. I upload every single chunks, and I complete the multipart upload. Okay, so there is a sequence. The first that we are going to define is the create the multipart upload. Okay, so we export this async function, and that we can call, okay, similar to this, create multipart upload, we can call like that, and we give a parameter that is a key. Okay. Actually, the key is going to be the name of our file, okay, inside S3. And I will show you how to create it. Let's create our function, and then we put everything inside. Okay. So first of all, we need to define the params to give to the function. Is params that AWS S3 requests for the multipart upload are, first of all, the name of the bucket. The name of the bucket that is, in our case, is called supercar. I already create the bucket that I showed you before, and is here. Okay, the bucket is called supercar. Here we go. The next param that we need is the key. We initialize the instance S3 client and send our command, and we get back a response. From the response, we are going to get the upload ID. So we use the async await, that's just a promise, and we, S3 client, we are going to send our new instance that we create just now. They create multipart upload command, and we put inside our params. So this initialize a new S3 client, and from the client, it will we start the method create multipart upload command with the params that we just defined here. We return back the response upload ID. This will initialize our multipart upload, and we will use later in our drop zone JSX. After initialize, we have to upload every single chunk, okay? Like in a iterator, our upload part is just a function that we can call upload part that include the key that we create before. It is the file name actually. The upload ID is really important because from the multipart upload, he need to know the upload ID that you initialized before to keep uploading to the same multipart upload. And the part number is going to be sequential, and the body, okay? The body is the buffer chunk. Okay, we have everything here, and the function is going to be like, we find our buffer. It's just a buffer from the body. So we transform the body that actually is a blob, is a string, and we change in a buffer, okay? And it's important because AWS want to send as a buffer, okay, as a file buffer. From the Node.js method, we get the buffer. Actually, is inside this object is file buffer. Actually, this is an object that contains the buffer. We define the params. In this case, for the upload, for the part upload, is going to be, first of all, the bucket, okay? The bucket that we create is the same as supercar. The key is the same key as before, and it's called key. We get from the parameters of the function. The part number that will give us, actually, we get the part number directly from response of our API call, and I will show you later where you can find. And anyway, in parameter of this function, the upload ID, and we want to, of course, send the body that is our file buffer here. We're going to send this to our API call that give us also a response. We wait the S3 client. We are going to initialize, send this command that is called upload part command that we import before, and we send our parameters. Here we go, and we return our response here from the function. Maybe we will need later check something. We need the last part of our multi-upload process that is complete. We call multipart upload, okay? And this function, we export a async function, and this is a complete multipart upload command, okay? And we give 3 parameters that is always the key, actually the same as before, is the upload ID and all the parts, okay? Okay, the function will take, in this case, we also get similar parameters, but we change a little bit. We need always the bucket, the key, and here we don't need we need a new property that is multipart upload, and is an object that is composed by parts that include the parts, and I will show you how to retrieve them. And last part is upload ID, that is this one. Okay, here we go. We define the params, and we can actually also, for the previous one, we can implement a try catch error. So in this case, if any error, we will get informed. So I copy paste the same code here. We change a little bit, define the response here. If everything is good, the response will be undefined here. If not, we will get an error here. Okay, error, can put while loading, and the same we can put up here. Okay, for the first one we don't need, we just doing the uploading part, and for the end we are going to catch if we have any error. Okay, so try, we await the same S3 client, we send the last command, that is complete multipart upload command here, and we give the params that function. It's okay. We catch any error here, just copy the same block here. Here we go. And we have the last function that complete the upload. Okay, so now we can come back to our previous file, that is drop zone, where we are going to create the widget. We are going to create the upload component, in this case for the images. So we have all the server actions ready here, and let's go. We import all three, the whole three function that we created before from our folder. Okay, from our server action folder, server actions folder, and the file is going to be upload S3. Okay, so we get all this function here, we save, and it's time to define also the DynamoDB function, okay? Because while we are going to upload, we need also to update the database, okay? Let's create all the functions, so once we have all, we can implement all the logics here. So for DynamoDB, actually we need three kind of function. We need the put item to create a new item in the tab, one get item for the tab, and one update item, okay, to update the item attribute. We are going to use DynamoDB, so it's a NoSQL database. Let's see how to create a tab, first of all, in AWS Dynamo. We are in our AWS. Okay, so we go to DynamoDB in the same region as before, in Dublin, and we are going to check. I already create this table, okay? You can create a new table, just create one, but I will show you because I already create. So we have just the partition key, we don't have the ordering key, and this is a string, so it's just car ID, okay? If you want to create a new tab, it's really easy. You are here in the tab. I will show you how to create. You keep the tab, the name of the tab here. Just put tab name, just we give the partition key here. We say car ID is a string. We don't need the second key. So you have to choose if you on demand or provision. Actually, we choose on demand when you have like a spot request. Or provision is when you forecast many operations that actually are distributed over the time. In our case, on demand is good, and you just create the tab. We already have, so we don't need to create a new one. Let's go back to our code. Let's create our server action for DynamoDB. Okay, we already create our file that is under server action folder. and we create our DynamoDB. This is also a use server because it's a server action. And we're going to import some classes from the library that we installed before from the client DynamoDB. Okay, I just grab, copy, paste all the class that we need. We're going to use DynamoDB client to initialize path item, get item, update item. We also need query command for the car space to get a group of items depending on some query params that I will show you later. Okay, so we need all of this. Let's put because we better vision. So we import from AWS client DynamoDB. Okay, and we also need another class, another method that is really helpful for DynamoDB, that is Marshall. It's called Marshall and Unmarshall. It's like a type operator that specifies to DynamoDB when we send some request if some value has to be number, strings, list, array, object, and actually specify the type in the object, okay, in a standard way. I give you an example. If we want to send this object to save in an attribute in DynamoDB, this is an object, okay? So we say, okay, we want to send these parameters, these values on DynamoDB, value 1, okay, if it's a string, okay, this is my string, we cannot send directly like that, okay, we cannot send like that, but we have to specify with this standard that is a string, so it's going to be S, and this is a string, okay? This is what DynamoDB required. If we have an array, it will be different, and we need to specify that is a list like that, and we are going to put the array that we want. And of course, inside this array also, we need to specify, for example, this is a number, so we cannot send directly the number, but we have to send an object that contains the number, and the object will specify that n is a number, okay, for all. This is an extra job for us. We don't want to do it. Marshall and Unmarshall will do automatically for us. In the both direction, when we send to DynamoDB, we recognize what kind of type it is for every single value. And when we get back when we read a tab and we get back the data, the Unmarshall will do the opposite of Marshall, will remove all the type label inside our object. So let's import Marshall and Unmarshall. Okay, and is from AWS SDK util DynamoDB. Okay, here we go. So our first function is going to be we call put item. This is just a write operation that creates a new row in our tab with our partition key that we specify, that is the car ID. So remember, when we in the input form we generate a random string at the beginning. Actually, this is the unique value of our tab. Okay, and that's okay to generate a random string. We can also use other method like incremental ID, but a random string of 15 chars have 1 billion probabilities to have like duplicate, so is also a good way to generate the IDs. That's export. Const put item. Okay, this is our new function. We call async. We need the tab name. Okay, and we need the item data. Okay, that we send to this function to save in our supercar tab in DynamoDB that we just created before. And here we go. Let's declare here that we call marshaled item. Okay, it means that we are going to marshal, as I explained you just right now, to send to DynamoDB all the item data. Okay, the params that we are going to send to put an item is this one. Params is going to be, the first is the table name, and this one, and also the item that we are going to save in the database, that is the marshaled item, already with the right format that DynamoDB requests. So let's send the API call here, and it's going to be await with the DynamoDB client. We forget to initialize the Dynamo client before the function that actually is, we can specify here, is a DynamoDB client. So it's a new instance of our DynamoDB client that is going to be this one, DynamoDB client. And also here, like the S3, we have to specify the region. We don't need to, usually you have to include here also the keys, the secrets, all the authentication params, but we don't need that. In this case, as I explained you before, because we give directly the role to AC2 instance if you don't use the AC2, you can store all your access key in a env file and import directly here. This is our instance, and we are going to call it here DynamoDB client, and we send our command that is a new put item command here with our params that we just created right now. This command will add a new item to our tab. We want to return true if everything is nice. If not, we are going to catch the error here and give back and throw our error. Okay, there is is to correct. Okay, we console log our, actually I can say from previous one. Let's stringify the error so we can see in a prettier format in our terminal. It's okay, error adding item, and in this case we return null. We're going to create a new function to get a specific item. It returns only one item each time we call the function. To get a group of items, we will define the query function later with using some index and specific query params. So for this case, we just need the item ID to get. That is sync, and we get three parameters. That is tab name, is key name, is value. Okay, we return back is function body. That first of all we define the params. The params to get the item has to specify the table name and the key of the item. So the table name is going to be the same as we put in our parameter, and the key is going to be an object. Okay, with the key name here, and the value have to be marshaled. Okay, to be marshaled with a key value. Automatically will format our object depending on the type of the values. So we have everything here. Key name is okay. Also in this case we copy paste a try catch method, but we change something here. We also initialize, okay, we initialize DynamoDB client, but we don't put the item, but we need the get item command here, and it will return our data, okay, from Dynamo. It return our item actually, and we can, okay, if the DynamoDB, if we retrieve the item, we will get an object that has a property that is called item. So we have to, before unmarshal the item, we have to be sure that we get it. So data.item, if our response has an item, we are going to, if it doesn't have an item, it's going to return null. If not, we are going to return our marshal data. Let's go with marshal our data item. We are marshal the object that is inside the item attribute, and we return exactly our pure JSON object. Okay, and if not, we are going to throw we're going to return null, and we can say error getting item, and we also stringify the error here, this JSON. The next function that we need is we want to update some item attribute, okay? And we will use the update item command from the DynamoDB library. We call this function the same way update item, that is an async function. We get more attribute here. First of all, we need to identify the tab. We need the key as a get item. We need to modify only one item for each function call. If we want to update a massive amount of item, we have other method. You can check the API documentation in DynamoDB. There is like some batch operation, transact item, for example, and there are many different methods. But in our case, we just modify one item each time we make an action on the form. So tab name, k name, k value, okay? And here we specify the information about the attribute to change. So the attribute we change, we need the names, okay? That is going to be an array. If we want to modify more than one attribute, and attribute values, okay? That is going to be also an array. Of course, these two arrays have to be equals, okay? That must have the same length and the same ordering between names and values, okay? So let's create the body function here. First of all, we want to say, okay, if the attribute names.length, okay, if we just want to be sure that we send always some values. If the length of the array that we are sending to this function, okay, is different, for example, from attribute values, from the attribute values dot length, okay, if we send two different array with different length, we're going to throw a new error. I just copy paste here to make it faster. Attribute names and values arrays must have the same, okay? Here we go. We have to set an expression, okay, we're going to tell to DynamoDB how to update the attribute, and the string actually is like the same way we specify a SQL string. In this case, we are going to call update expression, okay, and we're going to use the backtick because we want to make this string dynamic depending on the attribute. We are going to create a dynamic function that is going to manage every kind of attribute changing depending dynamically from the number of names and values that you're going to send. We just put here a tick, okay, to make the string dynamic. What we're doing here is to map all the names, okay? We're going to map all the names, and at the end we're going to join. The first is attribute. It's going to be attribute and index here. We'll return back a new string here that include the attribute name, okay, that is equal. Actually, we are dynamically create this string, and it's called val. We're going to declare later what is val. This is the index, okay. We're going to use the index later, and we join this, okay. In this way, we create a string dynamically with the comma between them. And here we go. We have our first dynamic string that is update expression. Let's control if everything is okay. Map attribute index. We transform every single attribute in a string, and at the end we are going to join, and this attribute name is val, and this thing. And here we go. So the next step, we want to create an object dynamically depending on the attribute name, and we call it expression attribute names, okay? And we are going to apply a reduce method to the attribute names array with the reduce, okay? So reduce will take 3 parameters that actually is accumulator and attribute. There is also a third parameter that is the index, but we don't need in this case. And we are going to return our body here. And our body will say, okay, let's take what is the initial value of the reduce iteration, and it's just an empty object. So automatically accumulator, the first iteration will be an empty object. And we say to this empty object, we are going to create a new key, okay, that actually is the attribute here and is going to be equal to the attribute. Okay, we're going to create this iteration here, and for each one is going to return the accumulator. And okay, this will dynamically create an object depending on the attribute. And for the value, it's going to be similar. For the attribute values, we are going to copy exactly the same. We are creating the second object for the attribute values. These three parameters we have to send in this string, and these two objects we have to send to the params when we update the item. To make it dynamic, okay, and manage every kind of data object, array, string, and with multiple attribute names and values, we need to create the object dynamically. So in this case, the values is going to create dynamically with a reduce. The first iteration is going to be an empty object, and for each value, we are going to add a new key that is called val, and we get the index. Okay, we get the index to create a dynamic val, and here we have to marshal depending on some condition. Okay, if it's an array, okay, if the val is an array, I want to marshal with L, and inside the array we are going to marshal every single item. Okay, if it's not an array, I will marshal in a normal way. This is important because the marshal does an automatic marshal inside the array. Okay, this is the dynamic function to create our object. So in this case, we are going to create our params. Okay, the params as like before, the table name that is called tab name, and the key. In this case, the key is going to be the key name, okay, of the attribute that we want to change, and we marshal also here the key value. We want to know what attribute to marshal, and here we are going to apply these three objects. The update expression, that is that string that tells exactly how to update the attribute. It's going to be, we set this attribute that is equal to the name and to this pointer to the attribute names and value. Okay, and the expression attribute names here, actually this to point is called, we are going to select the expression attribute name depending on the value name and the attribute values itself. Okay, so this is complete, and we are going to the same way just implement a try catch. And for this case, the way is a little bit different. We just wait. We just send our DynamoDB client instance. We send our new update item command that we import before, and we give our params as we define above. We return true. We just return true. Okay, better to see also on the console when everything is done. Item dated successfully. Okay. Also, we're going to integrate this terminal log, this console log, also to the other function. Also here, not here, we don't need, we just get the data, but we want to some information from the function above if we put item correctly. Item, we can specify created successfully, and here we go. We have our function here, and item updated successfully. If we get the error, we can specify error the item, okay, at the same way. And here we go. We also create a function that update dynamically, and the last function. So we export our function that we call query tab. Okay, this function we will use for this car space, because when I create a new item, a new supercar, I want to update automatically this page and show with a query. I will get all the item with the item in DynamoDB with a query and show all the items here. Okay, this is the function of the query tab in our case. We are going to specify all the parameters. Also here we need the type name, the index name. We are going to create a secondary items for the query that I will show you how, and the attribute name and the attribute value. Okay, so for the query we are not going to use the the car ID, but we need to create a secondary index in the tab that help us to make a special query depending on some specific condition. We are going to create the index now. I will show you. Actually, I already created the index before, but I will show you how. And here we go. This is the tab. Actually, I want to create, okay, I want to create an index that this is already created from my previous one, but we will see later that we will update every single item with a status, okay, with a status that is live or is off, okay. I want to query my tab considering the status. So you say, okay, give me back, like a SQL actually, give me back all the items that the status is live, okay? But we need to create an index, a specific secondary index to do this for this behavior. And I already created before. If you go to index, if we go to index of this page, we create a status index like this and is active, okay? We can query the tab directly for this index. To create an index is really easy. We just go to car tab, index, we create a new index. We give the same attribute name of the tab, can be only partition or also ordering depending on our query that we are going to create. And automatically we create our index name and we will use in the query params, okay? So let's go back to our query tab. Okay, in this case, we already create the status index, okay? And we want to get all the items that are included in our tab with the status live. We need the table name with the tab name here, the index name, that the secondary index name that we created, and we will put as a parameter of our function. So in this case we can use the query tab for any query that we want. The key condition, now here we need the key condition expression, yeah, that give we just tell how we have to make the query. Of course, this argument is, this topic is really complex because we have many different query options. You can read the Dynamo documentation and get, if you are interested in this part, you can get many information from the official website. We create a string here that is the attribute, is a pointer, and this is the value, okay, that we are going to put here. And this is just a reference to our field here, and I just copy paste to make it faster. Expression attributes name, this pointer will give this value. Expression attribute values, the value will get this string, this Marshall object actually. And what we did before is just to create this object dynamically, okay, adding more than one attribute and more than one values. Actually, we just create this object in a dynamical way. Okay, let's send the API call with the try catch here. The data that we retrieve from the query is going to be data await DynamoDB client, at the same way as before, send. We send a new one that in this case is query command, and we get from params. We input the params here. Okay, we go at the same way we did on get item. We want to be sure we get back some data. Okay, the same if data dot item, if we have the item object, or if we don't have the item object, or something went wrong with the data, we get the items. Sorry, in this case is items because it's a query. If data items is actually equal to 0, so if it's also equal to 0, we get the data, but the data is not, we get 0 items because the query is not, doesn't match any items. We get an empty array. Actually, we can simplify this condition with this JavaScript method. And if we don't have items or the length is 0, we match this condition, and this condition will console log not items found with a specified condition and return an empty array. But if we get some data, we want to marshal the data. Okay, so at the same way as before, so I just copy paste the same as before, marshal items, data.items map, and we marshal every single item inside our array, because don't forget that the query will return always an array of objects, different from the get item that return a single item that is an object. Okay, we return the unmarshaled items. And if not, we want to catch the error that is actually error querying items, and we stringify the error as we did before, and we return just null. Okay, I think is enough for this backend part. Actually, we dive inside all the single function. It's like almost a from scratch approach, because in this way we can see what happened for every single function, for every single DynamoDB method is also for S3. So we have all the function ready to implement to our form. Let's go back to our front-end part, to the form, and we are in the drop zone. We go back in our drop zone. Okay, after import all the S3 logics, we want to also import the function that we just created right now. For this part, we just need the put item, get item, and update item. The query part we will use later. Put item, get item, update item. Okay, here we go. We import from our folder that is server actions and is DynamoDB file. And here we go. We also import this. We have everything. Okay. I want to show you also a nice way to create icons for free, just grabbing an SVG code block from internet, from free repository. And I think it's a good way if, for example, all the free libraries like Awesome Font or many other libraries not enough, you can extend them. Okay, if you don't want to use only React icon, you can extend and create your React component from the SVG. This is because SVG icons are more common. You can find more free repository online. One of them is this repository. And there is a free SVG icons. And this one is svgrepo.com. And you can find all the icons that you want. It's really huge. This is something that every developer must have in his libraries. More than 500,000 open licensed SVG vectors and icons. That's a must. Let's see how to implement them in our form. First of all, in our component folder, we need to create a file that manages all the icons. I already create here. I already create in advance, so we don't need to spend a long time to write from scratch. I just explain you the logic. So we import React, we import icon SVG props from types, okay? And every single icon is an export. We call with the TypeScript, we just use these icon SVG props, and we specify in the first part. Let's see an icon that has some, okay, for example, this moonfield icon. We import from the function, okay, from the component, from the props, the size that is default 24, but can also change the weight, the height, and other props if we need. And in the SVG, we are going to set other parameters. Anyway, you can find all these icons directly in the GitHub repository, so you can play around this and see what you can dynamically change as from the component props, okay? So inside the body, you have to return the SVG code that usually wrap like a path or other SVG element, like a G, global, and everything. This part is the part that you grab from the online repository. Like, for example, let's find an icon that smile. Okay, we have a lot color. You can change as changing style. You can change the style and get only smile monocolor vectors. You can get multicolor a lot. It's really, you can have fun around this stuff. So you download the SVG, you get directly here. You can see in the folder. You open also with the Visual Studio Code, and here we go. We have the code of our icon. You just grab, you can copy paste and put in our body here. Okay, so for example, this icon will get the size, and we will apply the new size here directly in the SVG. Actually, there is a conditional. If we don't have the size, it takes automatically the weight. Okay, if we have the weight, it will apply directly. And also for the height, and we can interact as we want. Is just manage the props and apply to SVG. And also to the body, of course. If, for example, you want to apply a different fill colors, you can apply from the props, just apply as an object. Let's see something else. For example, the stroke weight, you can actually, from a common SVG, you can make it dynamic as a React component. Okay, we already have our icons, so we don't need to create. We just go to the next step. We return back to our form, and we want to import 3 different icons that we created, that I import before from that repository that I already choose for our purpose. Color upload, success icon. Let's create the first upload, the first drop, that is called drop image. Let's create the upload to manage the image drop. So it's going to be export function drop image, okay, props, and we are going to create our component. Okay, I just show you actually this code I just copy paste from the documentation of the drop zone that we saw before. Okay, I just modify a little bit depending on my need here, and I will just copy paste to make it faster and explain you every single part of our component, of our logic. Okay, let's see our component. Not quite simple, actually. It's a complex component, but I try to explain you every single part step by step. You can understand how to work with it. Let's finish to import other elements. We have everything that we need for the drop image, and we don't need to go back to the statement again. We want to import also a progress bar that show us the progression of the upload, that is called progress, and we can find directly in our Next UI. Or we are going to use Redux here, specific method that we're going to use dispatch here, because when the upload finish, we want to interact with other external component of the form that are not under the same element tree. Okay, actually we want to update other element that they are outside the drop down tree. We're going to use Redux for this purpose, because the first purpose of the Redux is just to extend the state management outside the tree paradigm. Okay, let's import use dispatch method from React Redux. actually is it's an single export from Redux. Here we go. We also import some function from the store. Let's see if we created already in our store, but I think we have to create now. We go to Redux, we go to our slice. The only slice that we have is manage form slice. Actually, we only create the update image of upload status. Actually, we will use to update the image status. And we also want to add the PDF, so we don't need to go back to this file anymore. And let's see for the PDF as exactly the same logic of our image. So it's going to be the same. We just change the name with image. It's going to change with PDF upload status. Going to be the same. Okay. PDF upload status. We are going to create also new state here that is going to be faced by default. We export this new function. We will integrate more function later for the bottom part of our form, but now just for the drop zone we need this new function here, and we export the second one that is a PDF upload status. And here we go. So we go back to our drop zone, we import those function. Okay, we need to import those functions to interact with these states. So it's going to be, let's copy paste this function that we just from store. From the path to our Redux is Redux for absolute path Redux feed, Redux feed. The file is manage form slice is the file. Here we go. We have everything that we need for our drop image and later our drop PDF. Let's start with the drop image. Okay, let's understand together how this stuff works. Okay, actually I copy paste from the library, from the drop zone documentation, the preview part. There is a part that you can see on the menu is the preview. This is a function that shows us a preview of the image as we upload on the form, on the drag and drop area. We need to declare one state. We need to define one state that is file and set file. We need to also define another state is a image upload message, set image upload message, and we're going to use that, we will see later, to update some component inside this element, this drop image. This is the state that manage the progress bar depending on the chunks that we already upload on the file. Okay, and we use dispatch here. We initialize the dispatch, and we get the form data and props. Actually, prefer let's change it as this. Okay, put directly in the parameters. Okay, this is a standard part of drop zone. Get root props and get input props. Actually, this is the method, this is the component that use drop zone is going to get all the props that need to make the component work. So in this case, we don't need multiple. This is some property that we are going to declare. So we don't need multiple upload. We just want to upload one by one. And this is the callback function that will trigger when we drop the files inside the drop area. Okay, this is the files that the component receive. The library will elaborate and give you an array of files. In our case, will be just an array of one file. Okay, and for each one, we are going to iterate some action. In our case, is useless because we just put one file. It's not multiple, but in the future, you can just leave everything like that, and we can use for multiple. Just put in through here. Every single object, every single item of the array is a file. Okay, we need the file reader from the Node.js to open the file and read the file and get all the information. The reader, a new instance of file reader is going to be here. This is all event that will be triggered when we upload the file. So on abort, we get an information that file reading was aborted anyway, on error. And on load, this is one that we are interested now to integrate our logic. So if it's loading, if everything is good, we don't have error or abort, we are going to do something here, okay? The function arrive here, and we will see everything here. What the function actually do is, okay, it will transform the result of the reader in an standard int8 array. Okay, it will actually change the format. We check, this is the MIME type. We need for the MIME type validation here. For the image, I just replace image because the MIME type, the standard is image / JPEG and PG or what we want. So we replace it, we have directly the MIME type that can be JPEG, PNG, GIF, or any other depending on the file. We want to authorize only JPEG, PNG, and GIF file. So first of all, we want to check if the file that we are uploading, if it's not one of the 3 formats that we approve, I will return back to the client some error information. Okay, so we set the state as a class. It actually is a danger text with a special color. I think it's red. And we give this information, unsupported format, read the instruction below for image upload. We are going to put all the instruction. And we get back the failure icon. Okay, remember the icon? We give as props the fill and the size. Let's see how we set the icon inside our icon file. We go to find icon. Actually, we don't find, I don't know why. Let's check why we can find this icon. It's here. So the failure icon get the size, width, height, and fill. The size we are going to put here for the SVG, and the fill we are going to change here directly to the path. And this here, we say, okay, just fill this path of the SVG with my color. And here we go. Let's go back to our drop zone, and we return nothing. First condition, I check if the file is included in my array, and the MIME type is already approved in this array. If yes, I will set the image upload message with the class in a message, say, oh, in unsupported format, read the instruction below for image upload. Also for the file size, file exceed the maximum limit of 2 MB. Here is our parameters. We can put huge file or small 2 MB files. Anyway, the chunks mechanism will take care of everything, dividing in chunks, and I will show you later how to integrate the chunks function. But if everything is, if the MIME time is correct and the size is smaller than my maximum size, and another condition is all valid status. So this is important, and we didn't specify yet what is it. We didn't define yet, but I show you now. It means that before uploading the image here, I want that you complete all the upper part of my form. If not, you will get error. I don't want you to upload an image if you didn't complete the upper part yet. So it means that all these parts have to be completed. Okay, we want everything already included here. Here we go. Let's see what is the all valid status, because actually we import from this function from drop image. We go back to our form and we create this part. So let's create all valid status function. Okay, we can create here back in our add car form, and we can add on the top of our component. We can be also let's add, we can put here. Okay, here we go. We have we call const all valid status. So this function will check 2 conditions. There is not one empty string, or the text input are conform to our regex rules. Okay, let's also, in this case, we can use memo to optimize a little bit our function. Return just a value, true or false, depending on all the conditions. So is invalid, I will just copy grab so we make it faster. Don't want to make you wait too long here. It means that, okay, I return something true if all my conditions are true, okay? It's all, and return if it's not invalid, the model is not invalid, so it satisfied the regex condition, and the input model is not empty, okay? The same for max speed, brand URL, and car manufacturer, Carmano. And we put as dependency is invalid and inputs. In this way, it will update only when one of these two variables change, okay? And it return true, okay? It means that we are going to use this function and will send as a prop to our drop zone to validate edges, okay? To be sure that we already complete all the upper part in the way that we want. Drop zone is here. If all valid stages are not met, if it's false, we are going to give another errors message that is please fill in all the above fields before proceeding with the image upload, and this is the third condition that we get the error. If everything is good, we don't return, we don't complete this function, and we go to our uploading part, okay? This is the execution of the chunks splitting, and we are going to call the S3 function and send the API call to store this file. First of all, how we want to chunk, how we want to split our file depending on the chunk size. We put 5, okay, 5 megabyte. Actually, if our maximum size is 2 megabyte, it will divide only one chunk, okay? We cannot chunk in a smaller part than 5 megabyte. If not, we will get an error from the API, from the AWS multipart upload, because minimum have to be 5 megabyte. We chunk the file, okay? We create now this function that divide our file in chunks. So we give the array, actually the content, and the chunk size that we define here. Let's create our function. The function we can put above here. And this is just classic chunk function. You can also specify that side. Function file. Okay, let's make it faster. I just want copy paste, so I need to spend a long time here for something that is standard actually. Yeah, the chunks is like that. We define an empty array. The offset is 0. Parse size. We have 3 ways to get the parse size. One of them have to be true, so the file size or the file byte length or the length, depending on the file that we are going to upload. In this way, we are going to get every case. And while the offset is smaller than the parse size, okay, we are going to slice the file, the chunk, depending on the offset or the offset plus chunk size, okay? This is the classic Node.js slice. And we push a new chunk inside our array, and we increase the offset with the chunk size, and we return back all the chunks. This is just an array with all the chunks. And here we go. This is the function that we use here. Here we are going to put also the total chunks, that is the length. Actually, in this case, it's going to be 1. Because the file cannot be bigger than 2 megabytes, we will see with the PDF that is going to be bigger how to divide, for example, 10 megabyte, 30 megabyte, 1 gigabyte. And the key, this is the file name that we are going to save in our S3 storage, in our bucket, okay? We are going to virtually create a new folder that is images with the file name is going to be exactly the car ID, the random string that we created before. It's going to be the same of DynamoDB, anyways, a unique identification for the car ID, and the MIME type that we get before. Okay, so if it's a JPEG or... And here we trigger the first part, the create multipart upload that to recreate, that initialize the uploading. And we set the progress to 0. This helps us to manage our, we'll see later, our progress bar start to 0. We create a loop from let I is 0 and total chunks that we calculate here. For each chunks, we set the progress of the bar and we upload the part that we want, and we push to the parts the part number and the tag that we get back from the DynamoDB. So we set the progress. It means that we just met around to get integer numbers here to set the bar. So every time I finish one upload cycle, every time I finish to upload this chunk, I update the state of the component and the bar will show the new progress. This, I recall the upload part function that we managed before, that we remember in the parameters we need to specify the key that actually is the file name that we define here, the upload ID that we get back from this create multipart upload. So AWS with the API call, we get back our upload ID that we need to recall for the next uploading part. And the iteration we're going to send to the upload part, the chunks content depending on the array. And we push in the parse. We need later, okay, to close the multipart upload process, we need to remember the parse to send here, and the parse is just object that contain the part number and the e tag that return back, okay, from this upload part. Okay, each time I upload the chunks, the API, the REST API response will give me back some data that actually is part, and it includes the e tag. It's just an idea of the partial upload. We complete the multipart upload, okay, with the last chunk, and we send to the function the key, we send to the function the upload ID and the parse, okay, the complete array with all the parse. We create, in the same time when we finish everything, the wait is complete, we create in the form data, okay, in the form data object we add the form data actually we get from the function here, from the component, from the input, I'll show you later, to the drop image we give all the form data above, and we add the image URL that we create like that. Actually this is a pointer, this is a URL for our public bucket that is Supercar, S3, the region, and the Amazon AWS.com plus the key. That's important. You have to authorize, okay, Next.js to link. Okay, this is a course rule that you have to unblock to Next.js to allow this kind of different domain plus the key that is the file. Actually, this is the link of the image that we are going to use to show our new car here and point to that new image that we just created in the Amazon S3 when we finish the upload. Okay. Before we have to authorize Next.js to accept this course, accept this new domain, and we can add here in next config. So we have to do this, we have to go to next config, we specify images, okay, a new configuration for images. In the new Next.js 14, it changed the way to define the rules here, and we call it remote patterns. And we list the domain array here, okay, that we authorize, and the host name, we put the host name, in this case, is going to be our S3 bucket that we specified before, okay? So we authorized the linking to this domain. And another important setting here that we have to put is experimental. And we need to specify something for the server action. Okay, it's true that with the new Next.js 14, we don't need to specify experimental for server action, but I think it's a little, I don't know if it's a bug or if they have to actually manage this part. If we don't put experimental, I don't know yet, I didn't find on the documentation how to set the body size limit, because the body size limit is really small in this case. What it means that when I call a server action, I want to send an amount of data. In our case, it's the chunks, or the chunks body. I want to send a chunks that can be bigger than the default maximum size for the server action, that actually I think is 1 megabyte or something, I don't remember. But in this case, I cannot upload, remember the chunks, we cannot upload smaller than 5 megabytes, so I need to extend the maximum, the body size limit, and we are going to, so to do this, I have to declare that this experimentally. We will see that there will be like an alert here, say, oh, you don't need to specify experimental, but actually I'm forced to define, I'm forced to specify because I don't know any way, alternative way to specify the body size limit. So server actions is going to be that. So is a body size limit, and let's put a big 100 megabyte is okay, because anyway the chunks are going to never reach that size for every single chunk. So we can also make it smaller, is okay, it's not a problem. And here we go, we set this. As we see, if we upload, if I update this, maybe we get some message here. No, we don't get the alert that no need to make experimental for Next.js 14. I don't see. Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, we go back to drop zone. We want to generate a date string. Okay, for this string, I want a number that is years, month, and date. So I'm going to create a new function that generate a today that string, just the data of today. And let's create here. You can create from, I just want to copy paste, make you lose more time about this simple stuff. And it's okay, we can create here, generate today. This string, it's nothing special, just today, date, new date. And we just create a date string with the full years, the month, and the day, okay, padding. And we are going to have a date string with this form, years, month, day. We can also use other library like a moment or anything else. I just make it from scratch. Here we go. We generate a date string that we're going to save in the database to have the date. We put the item with the function put item that we already create in our S3 file. Okay, we put in the tab cars. First argument is the cars, and the form data that we created, that we import before from the props. We add the image URL, the date screen. Actually, we are going to transfer all the information in our form, all the input, and also the image ID. So we will create a new object that stores all our information. So if everything goes right, we set the final upload the image, say, congratulations, you have uploaded the image of your supercar. What it means that when the upload succeed, I create a new item. So the condition to create a new item is to input all the field and finish the upload successfully. I just want to create the element when I complete the upload. Later we add more attribute if we complete the form. But if we don't complete, we just create a new item. This is the condition. Anyway, this is just an example and depends exclusively on your needs for your website. What we are doing now, we set the upload image, I update this element, we will see later, and we dispatch the image upload status to true. Okay, we set this variable in our Redux store, and I will show you why. Else, something went wrong, any other error, I don't know, that can happen while uploading, we just give this message. Okay, with also a try catch for any other problem. The reader array as a buffer. This is important. We specify here, actually, it tells us to create a file as a buffer. The reader has to be a file as a buffer to send S3. And this is a block of code that I get from the library, from the drop zone. And actually, it helps us to, it triggered the preview in our component that we see that. Anyway, it's standard. You have to just copy paste like that, and we'll create a preview here. This is a thumbs component that actually is the preview little window that we will see later, and it's all standard. We just copy paste, and these thumbs are going to include in the front end in the return. Okay, the return is quite easy. It's just a section with some Tailwind class that is full width. The background is primary that we defined before. That actually is that one. This is padding 2, rounded, is going to be XL, shadow, medium, it's just a little bit standard styling. And this is the part where we are going to show our component, and this is a default. We have to specify it from the documentation in in our drop zone, we get the root props. Under the hood, the library will get all the information for our upload. And we specify also the class name for our, this is actually standard. We can put wherever we want. Actually, we apply the class name for the component. The input, we get the get input props, okay? And this is all the information about component. You can change as your need. Drag and drop your supercar picture here, color upload that we create before, class name for the progress bar. I want to put the progress bar inside a container that is full and just margin top 1. And this progress will take the color success. Actually, it's just a green color. Area label is okay. And the value is going to be progress that we calculate up there. Okay, that is the state actually. Every time I get the state updated, this will take the new progress that is actually a number, a percentage number that we saw before. So we show the image upload message here from the state that we set here on the function before. Remember, when we get the error, we always set this upload image. Actually, the states are 1 and 2, okay, for the front-end component. The files and set files is just for the use drop zone that we already see before. Get props, get input props that we're going to put in our front end. As we see here is the initialization. Here we get all the information, just accept the file format, it's just information for the customer. Let's see if all this stuff work. But first we have to import this drop image in our form. Okay, we arrive here after the input. We have upload your supercar. Let's see how to put here. So first of all, we have to import the drop image here. Later we will add also drop PDF from our folder that is components and is drop zone. I'm going to add this element here to image, and we have to send some props as we saw before. Let's see, so we need to remember to send all valid statuses. It's going to be the return of the function, all valid statuses here, and also form data that include all the input from the forms. So let's see if this first upload works. We refresh. Here we go. We have our beautiful component here. We have some error here. We have some error here. Complete multipart upload is not exported from server action. Let's see what happened here. Let's bug a little bit. Complete multipart upload is not exported from here. Okay? Actually, because we put the wrong name. And here we go. Okay, we don't have any error. The complex part is I think we already finished the complex part, that is the multipart upload. Let's see if it works. Let's select a new car here. Which car do you like? We try with La Ferrari. Let's try. That's good. Okay, we get the error because we didn't finish the input. We didn't fill the input yet, so it's nice that we get the right message here. We want to finish this one first. We call Ferrari, La Ferrari. Maximum speed is 345. Just put a random name, Ferrari.com. We have Ferrari, is not convertible. Let's try again. We put this one and we see now that we get an error here. We get an error here that is, okay, create multipart upload is not a constructor. Let's see what is wrong here. Let's copy this part and maybe we may cause some mistake for this. This is in our upload S3. Send create multipart. Okay, I think there is a mistake here from the name. Command is uppercase, and here we go. Let's try again. Also to here. We go. Okay, so let's try again. Ferrari 350. Ferrari.com. Let's try select car. We call a Ferrari, and we upload the image. Let's see, and here we go. Actually, we see the progress bar, but we have another error. The first argument is type of string of an instance of buffer or a buffer. Let's check together what is the problem. Received undefined, so maybe there is some problem inside the drop zone. Actually, we have an error, and I spot the error that is here. Actually, I made a mistake. It's not, of course, I don't want to increase the I variable. I just want to give as a parameter as the value of the I plus 1. Okay, let's try again. Let's refresh. Let's refresh here. We put all the value inside, and we upload the image. We wait, and here we go. We didn't get any error. It means that the form upload on S3 this new image, first of all, and we also create in DynamoDB a new item with all these data. Let's check if it's really like that. Okay, so before checking the AWS, I just want to show you that I make a little bit modification on the form. Here I add a new input that is status draft. We will need later to query the items. What it means that when I upload the image, it creates in the database the DynamoDB item and its status draft. Okay, if I don't finish all the next steps like uploading a PDF and choose some other option, will remain draft. I don't see in the car space, so when I finish all the form and I submit, I will change it in the live status and I will see in the car space. Let's see in our AWS. So as we can see, we create a new items here that is car ID with all our input fields. This is the random string, this is the brand URL, Ferrari, car manufacturer is Ferrari, is not a convertible car, the date string is today, image URL, let's check if it works. If we, as you can see, I can download the image that I just uploaded right now, and everything works. We can also check that the max speed is here, the model, and the status is draft. Okay, so the multi-part upload works well. I want to integrate also the PDF multi-part upload that actually has exactly the same logics and the same code block of the image. We just change something here, like the my validation, the maximum size, and some information here. And let's check. So what we are going to do here is going to add here a drop zone file we create. Also in this case, I just copy paste all component. I will show you what is different than the image one. Here we go. So we get all PDF information here. It's called drop PDF. Drop PDF here is exactly the same, just a little difference from the image. I just want to change also as a props here. Everything is the same, nothing changed here. We make a check here, a conditional check that is different from the image. We want to be sure that we complete all the part of both, that it means I upload the image, that is implicit that if I have the car ID, actually this is a query, is a get item operation. If I get the previous car ID, it means that I complete this and I save in DynamoDB, and I can go to the next step to upload the PDF file. Okay, so if I have everything's done here, if I get the car item, if I don't get, I get the error image the same way. I check the MIME that there must be a PDF file, and the maximum PDF for size has to be 40 megabyte, and we write here for the client, the chunks and everything is going to be the same. And the key PDF, we are going to create a new folder in DynamoDB that is PDF with the car ID file, and everything is exactly the same here. Congratulations, you upload the PDF or something went wrong, and the drag and drop is the same and is exactly the same block code as before for the image one. We go in our form and we add also the drop PDF here. We add also here in the front end is going to be drop image, it's going to be drop PDF. Actually, just copy paste to make it faster. Upload a supercar specs PDF file. We want to upload some supercar specs, and we just send as a props the form data as I show you just right now. Let's see. The second upload is here. Let's create another car from zero. What happens if I upload the file without filling all the previous field? 10 megabyte file. What happened? Please ensure you complete all the previous steps, fill out the requested fields and upload, and it's correct. Let's complete the form with all the input and create also the PDF file. Let's create a new file, a new card, number or Lamborghini. Which car we have in our folder? We have, okay, Bugatti Mistral. Let's try Bugatti Mistral. Mistral. No display, just Mistral 40. Bugatti.com. Bugatti here. We choose the image that is that one. And upload succeed. Everything's good. And we upload this big file. Let's try with 10 megabytes. It's okay. It's going to divide in two chunks. And we get here is uploading. So it's uploading the first chunk. We are waiting for the next one. Maybe 3 chunks. Let's wait. And here we go. Upload the PDF file. Everything is correct. So we just check in our AWS tab what we see here, that we create a new object. Okay, that the difference with the previous one, that now the new object also have a PDF URL. So now it's complete, and we want to check off also if this URL return as a PDF file, and this is just a random PDF that I just upload for example. And let's check also if the S3 we get exactly, we save the folders with the files. This is the S3 folders. As you can see, we create 2 different virtual URL with the image, the car. This was saved before the tutorial, and it was saved before when we got the error. Anyway, the PDF is here and the image is in the folder. So everything works smoothly. Okay, let's add another section under here where we want, for example, to add some options to our form. For example, is a website where we make car advertising. Okay, we are creating an ad. Okay, an ad, and we want to add more option. And let's see how to interact with this component, with Redux and with the form submission. We're going to add another part here that we add a text that is some last names. We want the same text, large, font semi-bold, and margin top 6. We separate a little bit from here. A margin button we put 2, and we add text. Choose your add the options. Okay, let's update, and we have the text here, and we are going to create another component here that we import from a separate file. We can add here, we can call publish options. That's be like a JSX, publish options here, and here we go. So it's just a normal React component, and it's going to be is a client component because we are going to use some interaction, some React use state, so have to be use effect, and so we have to be use client, can be server-side rendering. We import the use effect. I will show you for what we need from React. Okay, so we also import the image from next image. We are going to import also some Redux class like use selector, use dispatch, and use store from React Redux. And here we go. We also need to create some function from the slice. We need to add a new function on the Redux store slice. We go here on the manage form slice, and we are going to add some of them. Just to make it faster, I will copy paste some code blocks, like let's add some new state. Publish time is like the days that we want our head has to be active. If it's sponsor type is a boolean. Default cost we put like 150. I will show you later how to interact with that. Total cost and a live cars list. Okay, under here we are going to create some function that actually just update the states depending on the value that we are going to put as a parameter. That's nothing special here. And here we are going to add also the export for the new function is going to all of this. Here we go. So the manage form slice is ready. We are going to use all of them here, and in the publish option we are going to import the functions that we need, that we just created right now. Okay, we are going to create the component, these publish options. So we are going to, for some props, it actually can be response type list and response time cost. I will show you later. And here we go. So we have our component here. There we go. So now we add dispatch. We initialize our dispatch instance here, and also we are going to use the store. Okay, the store is just a method to get the store variable. It's just a function. We just get some variable from the store when we don't need to change the state or update some component. We import the store. We initialize the use store that we call store, and here this form we want to update some component using the useSelector method. Actually, the useSelector works. The mechanism is really simple. If you declare the useSelector on top of a component outside the return, every time you dispatch an action to the slicer and you modify the variable, the state included in the useSelector, all the component that has the useSelector inside will be rendered. Okay, actually it's the method that gives you the freedom to upload any part of your application from any other part, ignoring what is the tree of the application and the DOM of the application. Here we're going to import these three. We're going to declare these three variables that actually they are the one that we just created right now in the manage from slice, in this publish time, sponsor time. They are all these syntax here, useSelector, state, manage form, that is the name of the slice, and the state variable. Okay, every time we update, we dispatch any of these variable, this component publish options will be re-rendered. Okay, we also create a new function that is called get default cost. That is just a function that get a variable value from the Redux store, and we can get the store variable just like that. We just from the store that we initialize here, we run this method get state. Actually, we get the actual state of the store. We get the object with all the variable, and we return just the states that we want in this case. we return the state, the manage form, actually is our slicer, because remember the store can have many slicer as we want, we just have one. We have manage form, and we get, in this case, the default cost. That is the value that we just create now, and as a default is 1050. We have this, and we are going to create this form. Okay, we're going to create this component. We need other function that we are going to declare while we create the components. We return. Actually, we want to return. Let's create a container. Just grab code. We have the container here that is a grid. Okay, is a responsive grid. And actually, the grid is just one column. Okay, but when it's just one column, when the screen is smaller than the format, then the small size. So when it's smaller, get one column. If not, if it's bigger than the SM size, we'll divide in two columns. Background white, rounded is for the corner, the overflow is going to be hidden, padding 3, and shadow medium. Okay, we are going to create a new div inside here that is a flex. Orientation is column. Okay, the items are centered and background white and padding 3. Okay, inside this this container, we are going to create all the part of our component. The first part is, we can call p last name. This is a font bold. We need a font bold, and the text, we are going to choose the secondary color that we defined in our Tailwind configuration at the beginning, and we put inside a display period. Okay, so what we see here, we don't see yet because we did the import. Let's import in our form so we can see step by step all the new update. The form is here. We're going to import this one, and we just need to import some props. Is the response time cost and the response time list that we are going to define just right now. And here we're going to import this new component, publish options, from that folder. It's called publish options here. Okay. We didn't define the props yet. I just copy paste some object with some parameters and explain you what it's for. We want to integrate this data in the component, so depending on our selection, we get some different objects. So this is a response type list with the keys, the label having different promotion, and each promotion has a different credits cost here. The response time cost, depending on the period that you want to keep our AD live in a website, is going to be 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, and each day has an increasing cost of 200 or 350. So default 1 is 0. And here we go. We import this object here as a prop. We had here as a props. And we are going to import publish options here. Actually, as step the O uppercase, and here we go. So we have our publish options, and we update. We have a little problem here in the use selector. Redux is not exported from the package. Let's see what's the problem. We're going back to our publish options here. Use selector. The Redux. Actually, is a mistake. Here we go. Component publisher does not contain default export. So instead, we have to export default at the end of component. We can add here. Here we go. And here we go. We have this part here. The bottom shows your head display period. Okay. In this case, we can see that we will modify one column or two columns depending on the screen size. And let's work for one column now. And we go back to we're here in our publish options, and we're going to add more other stuff here. I'm going to apply this block here, and this block contain, as you can see here, three different selection. I already prepared in advance, so make you wait a long time to digit every single part. What happened here? We have three different containers that actually are the rectangle here, and we put some border, we put some animation, like if I hover them, I will twist scale a little bit and change the color inside, and you can see this behavior here. That is just here, a scale 125, text wide, and we get also border, the width, the height, the text is center. When I get hover div, I will get different color that is confirmed light, and when I hover is scale 1 to 10, the text white, also when it's hover, and the transition and duration. So we have all the CSS here. If I select this one, it doesn't work yet because I have to create this handle publish time function. Okay, so the handle this function is just simple. Is actually is a function that dispatch a new state from Redux that we call handle publish time. The param is the days, the number of days that we want to publish our ID, and it's going to dispatch an update publish time. Okay, so it means that every time, let's see if it's good. Okay, so it means that every time I click on, I select 1 days, I will update the store with the number of days, because here in the function we send as a string the number of days of the container. So if I change of the div, if I change to 2, automatically I will get, okay, I still get error. Maybe I have to set something else. We have a publish time here. Okay, let's see what is the error here. Okay, when I change this is okay, dispatch is here. Maybe, of course, we have to declare inside the component, if not the dispatch initialization. Let's try again. Update publish time days. Update publish time. We import here. Let's see if there is something here. Update publish time. We didn't define yet. So actually we don't have yet this function that we are going to add right now. Here we forgot to. Let's copy paste all block here. That include also the update publish time. Also for the export object here. Here we go. So we should have everything. Okay, we try again. Here we go. If I click on the selection, if I choose 2 days, the Redux, the dispatch action will update our store, update the publish time state, and re-render this component because we have the use selector here. That's really cool mechanism that Redux give a lot of freedom for our application. And the same if I press 1, 2, 3, and it's going to be the same. Anyway, every time I trigger, I click, and use selector will update this component and update also the value in our store. Actually, is going to update this value here, publish time that is 3 on default. Okay. We have this part, so it's going to be another input for the form that we are going to store in our DynamoDB. Inside with all the previous information, we are going to add this information to, and we will update the DynamoDB item with a submit button at the end that I will show you later how to integrate. Now we have this selection here. Going to add another part here that is this part, this code. Is a text. Choose the number of days your car will be published. Okay. I add also this part. It means when I trigger, okay, when I change the days, I want to show how the cost increase. Okay, what is the cost increase from the default? In this case, is 200. Okay, let me add this image first, this icon first, these two image, dollar icon, also the car brown that we'll see later. So let's refresh. We see the dollar icon. We see there is a nice background here for the car that I just added right now. Take the background from the layout here. Let's go back to the layout where with the URL of the background that actually is here in the layout. We specify it's not here, maybe is inside this page. Here we go. Is here. We create, when we create the page, we add the style at this background image here, and we just add the image right now before I cannot find on the folder. And also the background is h-full, with full BG cover, and the flex grow and scroll bar hidden just when it's smaller than large. Okay. When it's smaller than large, is going down. Let's finish the publish option here. We just add this part. So when we update our selection, we will get 350 more. Actually, are the parameters that we set in the object before, 200. But when it's 1 day, it's going to be false, and we don't see the image. Okay. And the text actually is this one plus 250. We get the value here from the response time cost object. Depending on the publish time, I will select the value, the price of each publish time. And if it's negative, if it's 0, it will return an empty string. If not, it will be plus the value, even for the image. We want to add something else here. We are going to create another container with this styling. It's also flex, and there's a border, the styling. We create and also inside another element that is a div, actually, and is a flex, and is going to be an input with a checkbox. Actually, give another option to the client to decide to add as a sponsored or not. We need to we put the value of this state of the sponsor state that actually is false by default, but we are going to create a new function to handle the changing of this input. It's going to be actually quite similar to this one. It's a sponsor head. This here. We want to change the state here, dispatch, and we just give opposite value of the current state sponsor. In this way, we can control the check, okay, and this update also a value in the store. We are going to add also another dispatch method here to update the sponsor type. That actually, if the status, okay, is not sponsored, if we didn't check this, we want to change the label of the sponsor type list, and I will show you how. If not, it's false. Okay, if we want to apply a label depending on the check, we need to define also the end option change here, and we have a function here, and the option will get the value. So we get the event, and we get the the target value depending on our selection. We'll see here the list of options that we define in the previous object. It is the kind of option of the sponsor that we want to activate. So if you can see, if I make a full screen, we will have 2 columns with a separator. And if sponsor add is checked, we can choose the options. If not, all the options will be disabled. Actually, we can apply this behavior because we integrate in this part, as we saw before. We integrated, where is it? Oh, on the function above. On the function we integrate this part. Okay, if it's not sponsored, we are going to, the value of the sponsor type is going to be, if the sponsored is a false, it will be disabled. If not, it will be active. And the selection depending on the sponsor type that is managed by the function on the top. Okay, and if the sponsor type is exactly the item in the label, will be checked. Okay, this is array of a map array that gives back all our label, all our input here, and of course the key have to be different. And for this key, we choose the attribute key that we can see from the object that we define on form here. That is this one. Each of these has the different key, as the label, and as the credit cost. Okay, and I will show you how it updates the credit cost depending on the selection and depending on this value. We go back to the publish options, and for the last step, we are going to add the last block code for this component, that one, and choose an extra sponsorship features to boost your supercar visibility. And in this part, we will show, okay, the cost of each. Show you. Happen here. Actually, when I choose to sponsor the head, okay, as default it triggers the first options, and the price, the price increase of being on the option that I get, that is defined inside the object. Our component is completed, and the benefit to using Redux is all our selection, okay, will be stored in the Redux store, and we can retrieve from another part of our application. In this case, we go out from the component, and from the submit button that we're going to create, we can retrieve all this selection and data here and the values for each selection. So in this case, it's going to be 3, 2. You see how it changed. This one will remove the extra cost. If I select the sponsor head, default it will give me promo pools, and we can change this one depending on the kind of promotion. We're going to increase the price, and it's like a little chart. At the end of this selection, we will get the total cost. We will integrate now the sum of all the costs and also the credit left from the user before the submission. So let's go back to our add car form. In this part, I'm going to copy paste a block of code that's just HTML with some JavaScript with some interaction. So let's analyze together. Is another container with flex call, item center, margin top 3, and it will show us the total cost. Okay, actually we have to define the total cost first. We don't have yet, so we have to create a function. Actually is a state inside our store, as we saw before. The total cost is going to be updated depending on our selection, and let's declare the use selector on top of our return here. Actually, we are going to, it's already, okay, we just put here. So the total cost, we import all these 3 variables. That this one just tell us when the upload is done, also the image and the total cost here. So if we go back to our component here, we see that we show the total cost, the image. We're going to add the icon that we used before, and let's see what happened when we date page. Actually, we have some. Okay, we didn't import use selector yet. We also import other stuff. What? explain you later about how to use them. I also import some Dynamo function, but now we just need the useSelector to include those variables in the new component down there. Image, actually, we already defined before. Here we go. We also need to define the user data. The user data, that is what we need now is just the credits, okay, the credits of the user. We just integrate this value to show you how to calculate the credits left after issue some options, some sponsored options. Let's see. Okay, I integrate the user data here, but actually the credit of the user data in this case has to be the same that we put in our store. Has to be, let's update our store, that is 1,900. Actually, this is the default cost of our form. Okay, I add this user data. Okay, so we can interact with a value depending on the user. This user data, maybe in a real application, we can get it from the session and from some other part of our database. Anyway, what is interesting now is to interact with this. The total cost of our selection is $1,850. Okay, if we get 1 day, I don't have any extra cost because it's 1,500. That actually is from the default cost in our store, that is 1,500. If I choose 200, I will get the sum 350, the same sponsor add, and also when I add some extra credit, extra cost, the total will update and give me the credits left considering the credits of the user. Okay, so if my total cost is 1,900, I have 0 credit left, and at the end, if I choose some option that have a bigger cost than my credit, the button will change and I cannot send the submission. I cannot submit all the data. So in this case, let's see how it works on this part. Every time we update, okay, every time we make a selection, we update also the total cost, and we're going to calculate the total here. Okay, we have always the total cost updated in this way. We put it here, and it's also a useSelector. So every time I update, every time I click something and I dispatch this total cost from this component, it will trigger also the re-rendering of this component that is outside this one. Okay, I also have an image here that actually is the dollars, and there is a text, a conditional text that say, okay, if this is the user data credits minus the total cost, and give us the difference, that the left credits. It means that if the difference is positive, is bigger than 0, show the credit left. Okay, in this case, we get the 1,850 that is smaller than 1,900. Yes, 50 credit left, and match this part. If not, we show you need the difference to get. And also for the submission button, also get the same logic, that depending if the cost of the option is bigger or smaller than the credit of the user credit. But here we have also another condition that is quite important. Say I can submit everything. Okay, I can get the submit button only if all 3 conditions are met. Okay, all valid status. So it means that I already complete everything. Okay, but not only the field of the form, but also the upload status. So if the image upload status and PDF upload status are completed, and I finish all, actually here I could not select anything. It's not mandatory, can also leave as a default, but all this part has to be completed. We will see how it works. Anyway, if all these conditions are met, I will get the submit button. If not, I will get this button here that actually doesn't match any action. Complete all the steps above before submitting. Or if the total cost is bigger than my credits, I will get more credits, okay, that we can link to other page or depending on our application. The last part of our form actually is the action, is the function that we need to trigger when we have the submit button. Actually, is the final confirmation that create, okay, that update actually the item in DynamoDB that we created before in the upload, in the image upload, because in this part it create a new item, but it's in draft status. If I submit, the draft status will become live, and we will see that after submission we will get the cars inside our car space. Let's see if everything works smoothly. In this last part, we have the submit button here. As you can see here, we need to specify on the top of the form on submit function. Okay, so next here we need to specify a on submit function that we're going to call handle submit. Okay, let's go on the top and let's declare this function. We can declare here and put here. So the function is going to be const and submit. That is an async function, and we get the event from the form. It is a standard function. And first of all, we want to prevent defaults, the default behavior we don't want to trigger. And inside this function, we are going to make an API call. Okay, we're going to update the item with all the new data that we integrate in the form. In this case, we are going to add a new variable that is called manage form data. So I will copy paste here all this block of code and explain to you to make it faster. So what we are going to do here is to get from the store all the form data from the store, but we have to integrate this function first. We can integrate here. So we get all the variable inside our managed form in our store. We're going to define some publish option that actually is all the option that we selected from the add section. We get back the car ID that we already input in our form. We generate a random string. The status will change in live. There is also a date string creation. And the publish time is sponsored, and sponsor type we already have from the store as we already selected and changed it before. We are going to send, okay, this update item to DynamoDB. So in the table car, we get the car ID item. We change two attributes, the status in live, and we also change the publish options, and it's going to be all of this option here. Okay, we're going to create a new attribute that include like an object. And if the response is good, we are going to query the tab. Here we get all the cars with the new index, status index in the DynamoDB, where the status is live. Okay, we create this query tab before, and we can find inside the DynamoDB file, if you remember, and it's here, and this is the parameters to make a query in our DynamoDB. So it means we want to trigger only the car that are in the status live. Okay, it means that we complete the form until the submit button. Okay, let's update here. We have our form, we have everything's done. And before testing the whole form, we just need to integrate the last part of our application, that is the grid of the object that we want to show here, that actually get the data from this Redux store that is live cars list. We are going to show all the cars that actually is in the live state. So this is another way to use Redux to update a component completely outside the trigger component where we have the action. Okay, so let's create our last component so we can see everything in action. Okay, the last component we add here and is new file is car space.jsx, and here we go. I just copy paste here and explain you the code so I make it faster. Image, you already know what is it. We export the car space. We create a grid of object here, okay, that take the full space of the component, padding 6, gap is the space between the childs. The grid actually is responsive and change depending on the screen, and from the 2 extra large, medium, and smaller than medium will change to 3 to 1 column depending on the screen. We will see later in action. Also the background color of each child is white with a little bit transparency, and the line content is flex start, so we get all the component with a flex position. We return back the query result that actually is in the props. Okay, we will give to this component from the query result that actually is from the Redux store, as we saw before, and I will show you how to transfer to this component. So we create, each key is different because the car ID is unique. We also put a glass container CSS class that I created before, that give like a glass effect with blur, something like that. Padding, overflow hidden, and pulse animation is going to have a little bit animation. If we want to see this class, you can find directly in GitHub under the file style, that is going to be here under where is it? Styles here, globals, you can find directly here. This is the animation, this is a pulse animation. You can find here. Glass container, when it's hover, is going to scale a little bit, give a little bit, can make a little bit like a dynamic. This is the glass container. Background is like a gray with a transparency, border radius, and everything here to make it nice and with a little bit style. So we go back to our new component here under the page add car, that is car space, and the image will get the image URL. Okay, that actually is the attribute from the DynamoDB item. We style the image with the 100% of the container with the width, and the height is going to be auto. And here we get some information that we get from the item, that is a car manual and max speed. Okay, this is done. We import this car space with this car space component inside our component, but before we want to also add a nice function, a nice feature of Next.js, that is the loading state. With the Next.js, you can show like a skeleton or something while loading. When you fetch like an API call while the client is waiting, you can show something. Just create a new file here, and we give the name loading. This is mandatory. You have to use this name, and inside the loading we can create a skeleton here, and you can create the add car form. Actually, we import from here, and the function loading is going to be a skeleton. So it means that when the page waits, we don't show this page, but we show an alternative that is loading. Let me show you how it works. But first of all, we are going to import car space here. Okay, with the query result, we are going to import here. We are inside the page that actually is a server rendered, and we can directly apply the async await here and query directly here. Okay, so we import all this stuff here. That actually is the car space that we'll create just right now. We import also the query method from the DynamoDB. We just include in the page component first of all, when Next.js load the page, it make the query tab, it make a query on the DynamoDB with all the cars with status index live. Okay, get the data, transfer the data to the query result props that we use in the car space to iterate and creates a map component. Okay, a list of components that we already saw before. The add car form doesn't need any query data, so it doesn't have any props. But while the customer is waiting this query tab, Next.js know automatically that has to show this loading page here and show exactly the same page, but replace, okay, the car space that actually we don't have the data yet. We are going to replace with some skeleton that show the customer that we are loading some data. Okay, Let's test everything, and I hope that everything is working and we did it right. Let's cancel everything inside our DynamoDB table. Just want to start from 0. We just remove some item that we created before, so we can. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's refresh our page. Let's create our Ferrari maximum speed brand website URL is a Ferrari. We upload our image here. The upload is done, so I can go to the next step, upload my PDF that is 10 megabyte file. It divide the chunks, divide the file in 2 chunks, 2 or maybe 3. You just wait a little bit, and if this finish completely, it has to change to submit button. Let's see. Here we go. It changed to submit. Actually, we are ready to submit, but first maybe we want to add some AD option, different. So it's going to be like 2 days, 200 credits more. It's going to be 1,700. So we have 200 credits left. Let's choose one, maybe just with this one, and we submit. Let's see what happened. We get an error. Good. Store is not defined. Get managed from the. Okay. We forgot to add in the add cart form the store. Actually, we also forgot this something here. We're going to store and use dispatch here. And we forgot also to be dispatch. No, we put here. We just forgot to initialize the store and dispatch. Let's try again. We put the name, maximum speed, brand, Ferrari. We're going to upload a smaller file. Actually, the image, not the PDF. We select the PDF. Here we go. Everything is done, and we submit. We didn't define the generate data string here, so I have to include this one. That is the same function that we created before. Let's refresh. Input the input of the field again. Here we go. Choose the PDF file, and here we go. We didn't get any error. We refresh, and automatically we will get our Ferrari here. So we reached the end of this tutorial, and it seems that everything is working. Let's add another car. It's another car, McLaren P1, just to have 2. One McLaren.com. McLaren. We upload our image. Here we go. We upload our PDF file here. We choose some option here, and here we go. We submit and we refresh. We can also refresh automatically if you need. We can integrate the user router from Next.js that automatically refresh the page, and if not, we are going to just refresh the page and we get it. But actually, I remember we integrate some Redux update here. So actually, I have to update automatically when I press submit. Let's see what happened and why it doesn't update automatically. So let's find where is the problem. In the add cart form, okay, when we trigger the submit, it's going to handle submit, is going to trigger this function, and at the end of this function we update the live cars list with the query results, and we have the function here, so it should work. And in the cars space we need the use selector with the, oh, that's why it doesn't work, maybe because we didn't apply the use selector here. Okay, let's see how we can. Okay, I understand. Maybe, okay, let's change the logic here. I don't want to give the query result from the props, but I want to include a use selector here. So in this way, when I submit and everything is completed, it will upload automatically our page. Let's see if it works. So we are going to use a select. Let's take the let's say the use select code here, React Redux. Here we go, use selector. Selector here. Let's import this one. And we define here the use selector. And if we go inside the store, let's see if we have our state is the live cars list. We are going to spread operator because we don't want to iterate directly on the use selector. If not, we will get an error. Let's see. If we go back to car space, actually we don't need to pass as a props. We need to pass as anything as a prop. We go to the directly to this page here. Sorry, we go to the page here, and we don't need to send anything to the selector here. At this point, we don't query anymore from the page, but actually if we want to use Redux, okay, we query directly from the add car form and trigger a dispatch from this component. Okay, we go to the add car form, we go to handle submit. Actually we already integrate here in the page. We didn't need any query there, so we already have all here to make it update automatically. Let's see if it works now. Here we go. Ferrari maximum speed. We put like that. We put the picture. We put the PDF file. Put a smaller PDF file. And we submit. And here we go. We get all the element that we already created in DynamoDB. That actually this is a double car. But actually what I don't like is the fact that when I refresh the page, I don't get the car. So it means that we need to modify something, and actually we have to leave the query here. Okay, we leave the query here, we leave the props here, and we're going to integrate a double checking, a conditional checking to show the data inside car space. Okay, so it means that in the car space, we are going to show the live cars list with the use selector or the one from the props. What is the difference? The difference is that if when we load the page for the first time, we want to get the query results. Okay, we want to get the query results. But after we upload the page, we want to update the query result. We want to update this part with the new input. Okay, so what we can do is, let's think about it. Okay, this can be a conditional one. If we want to have a double function here, okay, so we want to update that car space when we load the page, but we want also to update car space when we add a new element and automatically update with the new input with the Redux. We have to integrate a conditional function that select which list of items you want, depending on the situation. In this case, for example, we have a page, okay, we update the page, we load the page for the first time, trigger the query tab, and we give to car space as a prop, and the loading component will be shown to the client. So now in the add car form, in the car space, we need to integrate this conditional selection of we want to decide if to show the live cars list from the use selector or the one that we get from the props, that actually is the first loading query. The first loading query is that one, but actually we can reach this goal really easily. Actually, we can declare a new variable that is active data that take conditionally say, okay, if the live cars list is empty, if this array is empty, it means that it's the first loading and the use selector and the store doesn't have any element yet. So I want to take the data from the page loading query. Okay, if not, we're going to take the use selector. In this case, the use selector take action only after the loading page and will update the page when we submit a new element. And here we are going to spread the conditional data. Here we go. Let's see if everything works. Good. So we are going to update the page. Okay, I just canceled some data from the database. We have only these two. It means that in the database we have 2 items. Refresh again. And here we go. It works. We want to add a new car, Bugatti Mistral. Let's see if it works. Bugatti. We select another feature. And here we go. This is ready. We update also the PDF. And now, if I press the submit, the Redux Redux will change the state in the store and trigger the use selector for the car space and show me the new data array. Okay, so if I press on the submit button, it will choose this live cars list because actually it's not empty anymore. Okay, because we update from the add car form directly. So let's see. We submit, and here we go. We have the list updated. In this case, we didn't have to make a new query to the database, but we just update the car space here. We have reached the end of this video tutorial, and I genuinely hope you have enjoyed its content. If it has been helpful to you, please show your support by liking the video and sharing it with your friends on social media. If you haven't already, I warmly invite you to subscribe to my channel to stay updated on upcoming lessons. Don't forget to check out my website, DevergoLabs.com, where you will find a plethora of interesting programming content. You can also send me collaboration requests and explore all the programming services we offer. Your participation and support are crucial in my growing and to grow this community and providing you with even more valuable resources. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with us, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video tutorial.